and all of that, so I'm going to need a second to just get myself sorted out. I am very sorry about the hour that I'm coming to you at, and I don't have a good excuse for it, other than the fact that I was trying out Civilization Beyond Earth again. Um, and I completely lost track of time, which is a really, really terrible reason for being late on stream, and I apologize. As actually, once I realized how late I was, I debated on starting to stream that, but I'm sort of at the end. I don't know, like I'm sort of sorry, I'm totally blanking. But yeah, so like basically, I sort of at that ending bit in a Civilization game where you sort of know that it's going to happen, but it's taken a few turns to finish off. I'm trying a new ending in Beyond Earth, a game that I think is actually highly underrated. I know Alpha Centauri is an incredibly hard act to follow, and I've always sort of felt that um, you're really like you're just setting yourself up for disappointment that way if you try to look at things that way, and I don't feel that you need to, but one way or the other I was truant in my duties as a caster. So I apologize. We're going to do our I'm going to do my best to do a full length episode. I've got a lot ahead of me, and it's not all Civilization. There's also some writing and other work that I need to do tonight. But number one, I appreciate you all being here. Actually, given the numbers that I'm seeing, it says 0, but that may be have something to do with the tweet. Actually, give me just a second here. I'm gonna tweet out. Probably should have just did this before I hit stream, but I'm a little frazzled. The other thing I need to say is I haven't eaten yet. So I do have sort of a plate in front of me, a lot of lettuce, which is probably going to involve a lot of crunching into the um, the microphone. I'm going to do my best to avoid the most annoying sounds of that, but I figured I was already exceedingly late for a bad reason, so I would leave it here. I um, believe it takes a while for Phantom Brigade to load up, so let's jump in there. The reason why I like to try and ramp up for a Phantom Brigade stream is I know the opening video takes a while. There was one other thing that was. Uh-oh.
Well, Ms. Lane clearly not giving much.
Sorry, BBC program. um, that's probably going to get a pretty strict copyright thing, so I needed to mute that there. But yeah, so I'm loading Phantom Brigade now, or should be loading Phantom Brigade now. Let's see what's going on here. But yeah, there was a little bit of brace yourself news, which I also thought would be interesting to cover, especially because I haven't actually seen what's going on myself. But before I do that, yep, we've got Phantom Brigade on its way. So one, I'm going to do my best to get the disclaimers in on time. And then, well, the game's disclaimers. I'm going to get my key disclaimer in. We'll load into the game and then maybe enjoying Riley Cunning's wonderful soundtrack. We will take a look at some of the Brace Yourself news. But again, I have that awkward moment where I load the game. I still don't remember if it's, oh, there we go. Welcome to the Brigade. We're excited for you to experience Phantom Brigade and to have your help in shaping its development during its early access period. During the course of development, some aspects of the game might feel rough, sparse, or buggy. Every month we'll release major updates, which include bug fixes, new features, and quality of life improvements for players. We appreciate your patience and feedback throughout this process as we work to deliver the most important features and fixes. From the main menu, check out the early access roadmap to see what's coming next for Phantom Brigade. Reach out to us by the Brace Yourself Discord community, or read the latest patch notes for the latest changes and known issues. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We look forward to making Phantom Brigade better and better with your help. Sorry, a very small percentage of people may experience a seizure when exposed to certain visual images, including flashing lights or visual patterns. These seizures have a variety of symptoms, including lightheadedness, altered vision, eye or face twitching, jerking or shaking of arms or legs, disorientation, confusion, or momentary loss of awareness. Immediately stop playing and consult a doctor if you experience any of these symptoms. If you or any of your relatives have a history of seizures or epilepsy, it is recommended that you consult a doctor before playing. Powered by Wise, and there's that lovely intro screen. I got caught off guard. I clicked into the main menu for the game, and it went into that intro title. So, I've been given a key for Phantom Brigade by Brace Yourself Games. This is way back when it first came out. I am absolutely in love with the game. I think it's great, and I love playing it. But, as always, we live in a time where lots of people are trying to sell you stuff. And while I don't have an Epic affiliate link anymore, playing a game can be seen as an endorsement. I certainly say a lot of really nice things about the game. And it is important to remember that I was given a copy of this game for promotional purposes. Although I am always fond of saying, too, if Brace Yourself turned around and said, look, we like your stuff, but you really don't have that many people watching you, so we think it would only be appropriate if you were to buy your own copy to continue playing the game. I would happily do so. I'd maybe feel a little salty about it, but it's a developer that I mean, they're Canadian, so that's a huge bonus there. But I can definitely tell you there's some Canadian developers who do not get the warm recommendation. But no point in talking about them. I think some of you may already know them because I think they just recently got. I don't think they got banned from Steam. There was some kind of Steam action that was taken against them, and I had something of a controversial opinion on their conduct. But despite that, I very much am in the category of couldn't have happened to a nicer person. Having a contrarian view does not necessarily mean you go out of your way to wind people up. It's, I do my best with the information that I'm given. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong. But I think people are sometimes a little too quick to assign allegiance to certain things. Anyways, I said I wasn't going to talk about this, and I did. So, one way or the other, Brace Yourself is a wonderful developer. I've had the great pleasure of meeting some of them in person. They are just as nice. I did this sort of almost backhanded compliment where I think I said it was like expectedly cool. Like everything you could imagine about Brace Yourself, to my experience at least, reflected the many positive experiences I've had with them online. So, you can never really take the measure of someone based on a, one or two meetings or something like that, but certainly they are very, very good at what they do. They're clearly very passionate about what they do, and they are just very nice people, despite the fact that, let's face it, if you had anything to do with Crypto the Necrodancer alone, let alone Industries of Titan and Phantom Brigade, you could probably be the sort of person to walk into a room and just declare, "Look upon me!" But yeah, with that in mind, I'm obviously a very enthusiastic player, and this is one of the reasons I bend over backwards for those disclaimers and disclosures. Now, with that in mind, I wanted to take a second here. I'm just into Discord because I don't think I'm going to go through all of this because it seemed like there was a whole lot inside here. But today there was a Rift of the Necrodancer AMA, and I suspect that this is probably not going to be readable to most people, and I suppose a lot of you are going to see all the Discords that I'm a member of. I really am that big of a nerd. I guess the Lisp one isn't visible though, so I'm safe there. Oh, but there's a Rust one, so that's just as bad. Um, but yeah, so for those of you who missed out and are still looking for reasons to join the Discord community, there was a Rift of the Necrodancer AMA. Maddie writes, "Hey Necrodancer, we are doing an AMA with Rift of the Necrodancer devs. Put your questions here. We're going to close the submissions at 7 p.m. and devs will start answering questions then. For the sake of keeping this clean, anything that is not a question will be deleted, so I encourage you to keep your comments in Rift of the Necrodancer. If someone has asked a question you also want to know and the answer to, please react with a question with a thumbs up." Now, one of the reasons I wanted to highlight this is Marlon is the game director, so it just turns out he was a little late in updating his Twitter profile when I checked. I believe Chloe has been on the Brace Yourself Twitch account in the past. I'm trying to recall Sonny and Charles. And of course, perhaps not surprising, Danny Baranowski's returning for music. COH events. Anyways, let's see once we start seeing developer responses in here. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but there's I'm sure I encourage folks to look through past questions to see what's been asked already. Locking this thread in 10 minutes. Here we go. Wow, there's a lot of questions. We'll see what we can do. Yeah, that's not as surprising. Is the game going to be mod friendly? Yes, we hope to open it to the community as much as possible. We likely won't be making tools for the community as we have a game to make, but leaving the data open for the community to hack at. Anything we can do to help? Keep doing what you're doing and hyping it up. Any plans on merch based on Rift? Perchance Cadence plush in Rift outfit. Yes, please look forward to future merch. When did you start working on planning in the game? This has been in production for about 8 months. I've been on this for almost a year and a half from prototyping. Are there really rhythm punch-out matches planned? Yes. Oh man. So there's apparently there's a bunch of news on this that hasn't been released already. Is this a sequel or prequel? Story-wise, it's more like a side quill or an alternate universe quill. Will it be on Switch? Other platforms TBD right now. I think that makes sense because, like, the thing is, I think Brace Yourself has a very clear idea about what it takes to make a very good video game, and I think they're quite good at getting the word out. But the thing is, like, I have no idea if a game is going to be successful or not. Like, I don't even have an idea if Industries of Titan or Phantom Brigade have met expectations. So the idea of sort of porting something to multiple platforms before you've seen whether or not there's an appetite for it may be a bit premature. I don't know though. Like I'm guessing, and of course we're reading an AMA with the people responsible. Will it support motion controls so I can feel cool? You don't need motion controls to feel cool. You already are cool. What a sweetheart. Marlon was actually involved with that Dirty Rectangles collective that I hosted last week. It's one of the reasons why I feel okay hosting it off of Brace Yourself game. Seriously, the entire game is controlled with arrow keys, so if you can map something to the arrow keys, theoretically you'll be able to use it to play. Will more characters be than shown in the trailer, and if you're allowed to say how many are expected? Okay, so there might be a trailer. Let me know if there's any interest in seeing that trailer and I can queue it up. Rest assured there are more characters than what's been shown in the trailer. Don't know about the actual originals, but there will... Oh, sorry, Oh, wow! Ah! Sorry. Will nearly every track from the original game be in? Don't know about exact actual originals, but there will definitely be references and throwbacks to classic tracks. How would music work in the game for the 3-lane stages? Well, so there's very obviously information Is there any procedurally generated content? Oh, Kree, you absolute sweetheart. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry I'm starting late tonight. I hope you're doing well. Will there be some replayability content, a roguelite mod of some kind, or will the game be more centered around the mastery of a set of specific tracks and mini-games? Like other rhythm games, the primary goal is mastery. We have some tentative plans for making things more replayable and procedural. Okay, I actually kind of want... You just finished your thing. Oh, wonderful. Okay, yeah. I'm all over the place. I actually still need to... I'm eating dinner in between little segments. So here's a question for you, because you may be the only one in here. I took a quick look. I jumped into the stream before I tweeted. So when I took a look, I had the dreaded 0. So I've been going through the AMA for Rift of the Necrodancer, and it seems like people are referring to a trailer which I haven't seen yet. Would you be interested in seeing this before we jump into Phantom Brigade, or are you really dying to see Big Mech's fight with audio commentary? Oh, cool. All right. Well, tell you what. I'm going to leave the Discord aside for now. I'm going to take a quick second here and see if I can find what's going on with Rift of the Necrodancer. Oh, cool. Thank you, Irrepressible. Like, again, this is the tricky part, right? Is I don't want to be the needy streamer that's always asking people to respond, but I get kind of one snapshot when I go live, which can give me a little bit of a prediction in terms of what the audience is going to be like. But it's a noisy signal, as you can imagine. So, you know, I don't want to... wow, 8 hours ago. That's really cool. Okay. So this is pretty new. This is a good day to be streaming Brace Yourself game then. I apologize because I know there may not be a lot of overlap for turn-based tactics and Crypt of the Necrodancer, but I assure you, the developer... Hey, Eldobi and Age Married. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Again, like I said, I don't want to be too needy about it, but it does actually kind of help me out when I'm scrambled like this. So we're going to take a quick second here, look at the reveal trailer. It's 46 seconds long. People seem very informed about a 46-second long trailer. Anyways, we're going to take a quick look at this trailer for the new Brace Yourself game. Well, I'll probably skip through the rest of the AMA. I'll look through it quickly. And then we will jump back into Phantom Brigade. Incidentally, this is the same Discord that you'd want to be joining if you want to get in on the Steam beta access. I believe there is going to be another big run coming up fairly soon. So just a heads up there. All right.
3, 2, 1, bring it on! Hey, you haven't forgotten about me, have you? Well, I'm not done just yet. The Rift took it all, but I'm gonna get it back. Starting with my friends. And together, we'll close the Rift of the Necrodancer.
Okay, that's really unexpected, but I'm interested. Had any of you seen that before? Sorry, I'm going to take a bite of dinner just so that I can not fall over. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Brace Yourself has always got really clever titles. I'm insisting that. So, I've mentioned a couple of times to the Brace Yourself people, but they don't seem to be into the game design dark art. So I was recommending loot boxes for Crypt of the Necrodancer, spelled thusly. But so far they've had no takers. But I feel like it would soften the blow for people if they called them that. My God. Okay. So I don't know what I did with this tea, but after eating some of my dinner, sipping the tea makes it taste like fish food. Not that I know what fish food tastes like, but anyways, yeah, that's actually very different from what I was expecting, but it looks really cool. So, where was it? What's it like to work at Brace Yourself Games? Any major struggles, i.e. pandemic, financial, etc.? Danny B. Stell, I will now list every grievance I have had over my time working for Ryan Clark at BYG, and a big empty list. I don't want to say too... I'm assuming that anything that I, have talked about is generally okay, but in general, if I speak in private with someone about something, I try to get a personal... an okay, but I think it's fair to say that Danny B. Style has, I suspect, the most expensive office in Brace Yourself Games, and one can only guess what kind of leverage he has on the mighty Ryan Clark to be the one to have the most expensive office. Does a brand new soundtrack from Danny Baranowski and Friends mean that there's one soundtrack by several musicians at once? Or, will it be like the original Necrodancer and have several variations of the soundtrack by different musicians? We're doing something different this time. Will something like this happen in the game, Cadence driving a car? I haven't seen that, but... I wonder if they have a guitar controller mode Cree would be set. So I think the idea here is that they'll kind of expose the data to the community to support modding, but I believe it will just be straight arrow controls. So, I mean, from my understanding, most rhythm games map to pretty standard controllers quite easily, so I have a feeling that if it's not supported directly inside the game, that's going to be something very straightforward for the community to manage, or to support, but I would guess that it's probably not from the start. Now I got to think of all sorts of weird and wonderful inputs to play around with. What can I do with like a gyroscope and a phone or the weight? I'll throw textbooks into the rhythm. Can you comment on the mod support? Oh, here we go. Will it include some kind of scripting for custom mini games versus just modifying the existing mini games? I see this as an amazing template for creators to work in, given the incredible popularity of modding certain rhythm games, as well as the popularity of online communities with... Okay, so somebody who's got my kind of question, which is very long. More of a comment, really, which is the Trojan horse of questions. Our primary goal is definitely making sure that we make the base game the best that it can be, but we are definitely aware of the interest in modding, and we'll be doing what we can to support that. As Marlon mentioned, we probably won't be developing particular tools for the community, but we're hoping to set things up in a way to facilitate community creations and mods. Oh, Marlon's got an answer for working at BYG. Like, I'm going to assume that probably people are not going to air their dirty laundry in an AMA anyway, but, like, again, I have a very favorable impression of it, so... So, Marlon, I really love working at BYG. They treat us very well here. They really try and make sure that we have a good work and life balance, and the best part is that they are great at letting us try new things. I started the company as a video producer and have always wanted to try directing a game, and Ryan gave me that opportunity with this game. It's been a blast so far, and I hope you all like what we come up with. So, like, let's just keep that in mind too, right? That, like, I think it's fair to say that probably Necrodancer is like the crown jewel for Brace Yourself. And that is no slight against Industries of Titan and Cadence. Like, Cadence of Hyrule is sort of a spin-off for Necrodancer, I sort of feel like. And, you know, Phantom Brigade I obviously love. But, you know, someone who, you know, I was a little surprised when I saw Game Director on his, you know, on his Twitter. But for somebody to be handed that property, I mean, number one, maybe that's just Marlon's strength as an editor that I'm going. But like the thing to remember too, if you check out the Brace Yourself website, there is there's a section on sort of their version of 20% time, and it's really cool to sort of see what they've done. I know Alexa, who is not just an admiral in Industries of Titan, but is in fact a real person, did this wonderful spider in Blender. And I mean, is very humble about it, but like, I've done guided tutorials before and my stuff doesn't look as good as, you know, as what they've come up with. So, you know, there's some cool, and a lot of it winds up in the games too. So a lot of the really nice lighting effects when Industries of Titan goes to night, that is a product of that's free time as well. So it's something that really seems to have worked very, very well for Brace Yourself, and of course we're the ones who benefit from that. Maddie mentions that Marlon is doing a fan-flippantastic job directing this game, by the way. Sorry, taking a second here. We're hoping to do a public demo at some point. We'll see how well they do for Steam Fest, and would love to get in on that, and sounds like you would too. I actually have some opinions on demos, but I will save them for another time because I know we're half an hour in and it's been Brace Yourself rather than Phantom Brigade content. However, I do know we're getting close to the end of the AMA. What synth and effect plugins were used most often on the soundtrack? Will there be a variety of different genres and style again? I like Arturia stuff, native instruments, Serum, Sealant, Omnisphere, too many to name. Variety as much as possible. No, Danny, we want you to release your reactor plugins. Every single thing you have designed needs to be given to the community. I know native instruments is more than reactor, but is this designed for keyboard, mouse, controller, or both? Also dance pad? The entire game can be played with the arrow keys, so if you can map a controller to that, it theoretically should be possible to play with anything. I will leave Algrins and Kree to sort out whether or not that applies for the guitar. What platforms are intended for initial release? PC, Steam for sure, other platforms CBD. I think we covered that again. You teamed up TikTok games. Any reason as to why? I'm assuming because they're already making 2 other games. We're working on a lot of new exciting projects here at BYG, and the team that worked on Cadence wanted a break from rhythm games, so we got in contact with TikTok, and it's been an absolute dream working with them. They are talented at art and animation, as you can tell from the trailer, and I recommend checking out their games BARK and upcoming one Writer's Block. That's what I want to check out. Yeah, I mean, I only know him from... I mainly just know him from Crypto the Necrodancer. I played a little Super Meat Boy. But I'll do, you know, let's do some credit here. Ryan Koenig is a very talented composer from an excellent school, might I add. And that is the lovely music you're listening to right now. What role in development is TikTok Games playing? Broadly speaking, I'd say that BYG is handling game and story direction and TTG is handling implementation. The project is extremely collaborative though. I'm actually a TTG employee and the folks at BYG extremely talented and chill, and we're contributing our idea, skills, and perspectives to try and make this the coolest game possible for y'all. Oh really? Like, was it the original one or is it the whole... because I know there's been like a few different versions of Binding of Isaac. I haven't played Legend of Zelda, so I feel like I'm missing a lot of the appeal of Binding of Isaac, but I do own it, and I should maybe try it again. I just feel like the game did not explain a lot of stuff to me that is taken for granted if you play Legend of Zelda, so it's one that I sort of feel like I was. It'd kind of be like maybe playing Civilization Beyond Earth or Old World if you'd never played a 4X before, and then like just having someone say it's like, well, why didn't you do X, Y, or Z? Like you always do that in a 4X. Yeah, there's a reason why I don't play it that much though, right? Because I am all for a nice little challenge, but I do think that Binding of Isaac actually does rely a little too much on people understanding sort of its heritage to a like. So the problem I had was not actually the difficulty. The problem that I had was I actually found it a little dull because I just simply did not know about a number of things that made it interesting. And those things happen to be very closely tied to the sort of experience of playing a game like Legend of Zelda. So, you know, I like Risk of Rain, I like Crypt of the Necrodancer, and I realize there's a whole thing about what counts as a roguelike. To avoid that entire conversation, I'll just say they're all roguelikes. But it's actually Binding of Isaac is like the really big one out of that whole history that that didn't really connect with me. The other thing that I noticed, actually, the other like heresy for me is Caves of Cud. I still have not been able to get into that. I was harassed by one of the developers into buying it, basically, and I've really tried to get into it, and it just does not connect with me. And it's a shame, because I know the two developers have some chapters in the book that Tanya edited with Tarn Adams on procedural generation. Actually, two books that they edited. And it's a game that a lot of people I know really love, but it's just one that is definitely not connected. But I own it, didn't return it, so we'll see where it goes. Okay, sorry. I think I'm mostly pulling from the original soundtrack with my upgraded skills from the last 10 years of writing music, but to share some of my biggest compositional and production influences in general. This might be interesting for chat. The Prodigy, Nobuo Uematsu, I have no idea who that is. System of a Down, Muse, and I think they've got a new album coming out next month. And for the particularly spooky or moody stuff, Stabbing Westward, Poets of the Fall. I actually know about Poets of the Fall from a video game, Rochard. Radiohead, Portishead. I don't think Portishead's making music anymore. Sneaker Pimp. Actually, you can't get the full Portishead discography on Apple Music, and it makes me sad. Sneaker Pimps and Buckethead. I even know some of those names. I'm out of questions, so I will now write out my complicated feelings about Dijon mustard. How will the different gameplay portions be segmented? For example, would the Guitar Hero-like segment be immediately after the Rhythm Heaven-based-like segment, or will they be spaced out more? The Rhythm Rift gameplay, the lanes in the trailer, is the main gameplay, and the boss battles and mini-games will be spaced in between them. Each character you encounter will have their own storyline and themed stages. It won't be entirely linear, though, hoping to give players a lot of choice as to what they want to do. Questions for the whole team. Hi, how are you doing? Can you tell us your favorite joke? And if you had a pet turtle, what would you name it? My therapist says I'm doing good, but I pay him to say that, so I'm suspicious. I can, yes, and I'd name it dependent for tax purposes. With a name like Rift of the Necrodancer, that makes me think that there might be multiple worlds, kind of like a light world, dark world situation. Is this kind of what you're going for? That sounds awesome. Let's do it. How does beta testing preparation work? Should one apply through email or people selected specifically and then something blanked out? We'll probably be choosing beta testers from our newsletter followers at some point. If you want to sign up, there's a link on our website, braceyourself.com. Oh, thank you, Takri. Question for the whole team. How you doing? Can you tell us your favorite joke? If you had a pet turtle, what would you name it? Excite, dad joke of the moment. What's a ghost's favorite drink? Booze. And Harburger. Is a golden loot going to be a thing? It's been a thing before, and it will forever be a thing. How close to Crypt of the Necrodancer 2 is this? It's more like a side quill than a proper sequel. Will be there be chapters or zone? Yes, there will be a chapter-like system, but it won't be entirely linear. Will Rift of the Necrodancer achievements be easier? Hell no. We'll see. We're hoping that Rift is a good entry point for new players in the Necrodancer universe, but still give hardcore players a good challenge. That wraps it up for the AMA today. Thank you everybody for your questions. This is super fun. If you want to quickly jump to the beginning of the questions being answered, check the pinned messages. So, my apologies for taking a big long time on that AMA, but I think for most of you that was interesting, and hopefully this has given you a really good reason to be involved in this Discord if you aren't already. And on the odd chance that that describes you, there is the Brace Yourself Discord. Again, just a reminder, as far as Phantom Brigade is concerned, the reason why you want to be on that Discord is that if you want to play the Steam beta, they are going to be looking for people off of that Discord, and you can get a notification through that. And of course, as the AMA noted, they do have a mailing list which you can get at braceyourselfgames.com. I think it was .com. It's not that hard to find them. All right, so half an hour in. We're now going to liberate Fearland. So we've got... actually, Lulu very kindly... So I think some of you may have been in chat when this came up, but there is a reference to a book that Lulu Karim, one of the writers for this game, put in for one of the province names. And I was racking my brain trying to find it. Fortunately, Lulu is a kind person, and so let me know. And it was definitely not something I would have gotten. I'm not nearly well-read enough. I'm changing that. I halted out on the Time Machine a little bit because I had some not real stuff to read. I had some non-fiction stuff to read. But I'm really enjoying it. If you've not read the Time Machine, that holds up. Okay. Also, did any of you know that H.G. Wells is one of the earlier proponents or designers of tabletop wargames? There's Kriegspiel, but he had something a little different. Okay, while we are heading to the battle site, I'm going to take a bite of dinner again. Sorry. Allgrins has gone to a wonderful place on their Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, Google, or YouTube, I guess, playlist. Yeah, I think one of the things that surprised me the most, so the book that Wells actually wrote 2 books. I think one was ostensibly for children so that he could write the book he really wanted to write. Late 90s. Oh, I like oldies music too. But yeah, so I think the children's book was written so that he could get away with writing Little Wars. And what's kind of neat about Little Wars is that it's a lot like Battletech. Like, one of the things that interests me so much about Battletech is that it's a tabletop war game, but so much of that experience, and certainly the campaign, like the additional source books that come up, are driven by events that are written out in the series of novels. Maybe. It's a wonderful job. It's a wonderful way to make people feel spectacularly self-conscious and insecure in a chat. Usually what I do is just name a bunch of bands and then say, but yeah, like if you think about it, it's a like it's so you've got the tabletop game, you've got short stories, novellas, a TV series, virtual reality centers, video games. One of Westwood's first games was a BattleTech adaptation, the Crescent Harks Inception. Yeah, like this is the easiest thing. The easiest way to get around that is just say, yeah, I'm old, so what? But man, you would not believe the amount of angst. Well, I guess it's because people are listening to that kind of music, but yeah, there's some there's some wonderful reactions when you call certain stuff oldies, even though it clearly is not. But I think oldies has a very specific definition, and in order to deal with millennial freakouts, they're just shifting the goalposts and calling them different things. Yeah, so like a TV series, series of books, video games, pretty much you name it, you've got it. It's one of the reasons why the Harebrained Schemes video game adaptation, which are some of the founders of FASA returning to the property, I think it's one of the reasons why that game was so faithful to it, because it did take the time to kind of care about the story and go into that world. Now, obviously, if you don't have something successful, you're not going to spend the time, fleshing that out. God, there was a reason why I was going down this. Oh, yeah, sorry. But what the thing that interests me, right, is that if you are a fan of BattleTech, chances are that is going to mean as much reading the stories and sort of immersing yourself in the world as it is actually playing the miniatures game. And the video game or what have you. Probably if you're playing MechWarrior Online, you probably don't really care who, House Steiner or House Davion are, but I don't know what Darkest Days is. But I know what a cassette is. It's one of those things that you put in like the camera to record, and then, they put the telecine in and they digitize it for the Blu-ray, right? Fair enough. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. But yeah, one of the things that's kind of interesting about Little Wars is that there are sort of after-action reports and sort of like bits of fiction from the point of view of the general. I'm pretty sure it's Little Wars that has that. But in any case, it's H.G. Wells nerding out about his miniature war games. They're not necessarily things that you'd really want to play today. Just get Tabletop Simulator and put whatever you want, up for a game. You're probably going to have more fun. But it's just so interesting to see how some of the stuff that winds up being kind of a foundation for a lot of experiences that we take for granted today. So, BattleTech's still around, but even if you think of something like Chainmail, which eventually becomes Dungeons and Dragons, and I have not played, I'm trying to know if it's like 3.5 or 4 is like the earliest edition of D&D that I've played, or Dungeons and D&D that I've ever played. The Inception isn't as funny when you have to correct yourself to it, but yeah, it's so interesting to see that, when you actually go back to some of that really old material, whether or not you can say that H.G. Wells is sort of the father of tabletop wargaming, because again, there's Kriegspiel, although that's kind of a little bit more of a tool than an actual thing to be played for enjoyment. Well, that's not entirely true, I guess. I mean, it was a tool, but I suspect people probably played it for enjoyment. But The thing is, like, he had physical components, so like pulling the string for a cannon to aim at the soldiers and stuff like that. So like that sort of stuff doesn't follow through today. So again, whether you want to, put the label H.G. Wells, father of the modern tabletop war game or not, it definitely does feel that a lot of the things that wound up being very influential to the experience that we associate with tabletop wargaming today and its translation to video games does seem to come down to, does at least seem to have, some of its first expressions in Little Wars. So, well, wasn't there, I was looking at this on Board Game Geek. I don't know the name of it, but I think there is actually a like, it's in the genre of like plastic crap that winds up collecting dust in your closet. Like, in addition to games like Mousetrap, I think there was an actual game where you had like a plastic castle and like a little catapult and a cannon and things, and you'd actually be like flinging marbles at each other. And I'm assuming there's like lawsuits, which is why maybe this isn't well known. I kind of want to look it up, but we're getting close to an hour now, so. All right, you followed a distress signal, put out by the Home Army to squash some enemy forces at this battle site. One of your pilots is Jumpy. They mean business, Commander. They really want to win this war. Another shrugs. I reckon we can take him. What do you think, boss? Suit up. Now, I don't have my... There are a few different ones. Oh, really? Okay, this is a rabbit hole I want to go down. I need to step away for one more second. It's not even to have a bite of dinner, but I'm totally going to do that too. But I do need to refill something really quick. So I will be back in a bit. I'm going to do a quick review of the mechs that I'm bringing in. I believe the wind needs to either improve its cooling or take away some of its heat generation. But we will... I swear we will actually do a fight before the stream is done. So, but I do need one more minute to get a refill and otherwise take care of charging and such. It's probably too late to for it to be worth pointing out now, but part of the more manic discussion points or approach to discussion points is it's another sleepy day for me. The good news is that I'll probably have my sleep schedule back under control. The bad news is that I really did not get what I wanted to have done tonight or today, which will include tonight. So I'll probably crash after the stream is done, but of course that's just going to mean so much more to do in the morning. But I think we've established that I do get quite a bit talkier and all over the map when I'm in this state. So okay. Let's just take a quick look and see if there's anything that we can consider an improvement. So I don't think I want the regenerator. The hydraulics are enough. Right arm. It looks like it's all heavies, so that's not good for heat dissipation. So this is an interesting one. Right now it's got a capacitor. Wait a minute. So it's equal mass? Okay, no, it's slightly heavier. I totally don't understand why this thing... I don't really think this works for the Sleipnir. Like, it's interesting, but I'm not quite sold on it yet. Okay, I'm happy enough with the... It's a handgun. It sure doesn't look like a handgun, but... And unless we got a better rifle. Nope, so Sleipnir stays the same. We got a couple 4.9s, so we'll take a quick look at the bull. Now the bull can afford to have kind of a weightier setup. So right now it's got big heavy legs. So yeah, the heat dissipation's a problem, but let's ditch the targeting sensor for now. This thing's moving at 15. When we equip the... Okay, so I can give it capacitors, I can give it the tracking sensor. Yeah, let's give this a shot. I may need to take a look at what the heat looks like on this thing, but I'm willing to give it a chance. And do we have a better machine gun to try out? No. Okay, so the wind was definitely one due for review. Thank you, Takri. I know you had a part in that. Depends how big your... Sorry, I think I missed the reference. Defensive subsystem. Okay, so we should be able to switch out the hollowed plating. Or empty plating, my apologies. Yeah, so this is definitely an improvement. Or is it? I'm gonna stick with it and say yes, but let's see if we can get that number up. So dissipation is one thing. The other thing that we want to be focusing on is capacity. Okay. So I already gave it the Logai thrusters. So I think if I give this thing a charge core, it's going to be too slow. 1261. I mean, it could be worse. My other alternative is to replace... Yeah, so that's a regenerator. Ugh. So I think part of the problem I've got here is just not... Like, there's a bunch of defensive modules here, but they're not things that allow me to put capacitors on. I think that's where the problem's coming in. Okay, I'm really not sure how I feel about the wind right now, but let's give this thing a shot. Oh, gotcha. I'm going to take one more quick look at the bull just to see... We didn't wind up with new machine guns, but I want to make sure I have the best. Yes, I do. Okay, so it's the lance and the ray for closing. Definitely want to take a look at the shotgun that did we not get a new shot? There we go. Okay, so less damage but a higher optimal interval. I think I'm going to leave that be. The left slot is a shield and it will always be a shield, so the only other option is to change the arm. Range? Really? That is absolutely bizarre that my big heavy moves faster than my melee unit. That feels like something of a liability, but I want to see how it works in the field. Okay. So this one again should be a relatively straightforward check. It's currently packing a passive heatsink. Good lord. My melee unit is the slowest out of the crew. Okay, so what I really want to see here is how it handles the range shot. So we can give it a sniper. No, we can't. None of the long-range weapons are better. We could give it a compact launcher, but why would we? Okay. I do want one more look at the wind just to see if there's something I can do to... So I can't skimp on the thrusters because I need that for the melee attack. Pretty sure we're already rocking light on just about everything. So I probably shouldn't be focusing so much on the heat dissipation here because we can get that all back. Even then, like the 521 integrity, yeah, it's also hollowed plating, so it's not weight that's killing me. It's the power and the fact that I can't give it capacitors or other things to pull back off of that. So, okay. Let's take a look and see what the mission looks like. So, reserves assisted. So, if I were to replace the wind, oops. Yeah, we'll try this loadout again, but I do seem to recall us taking some damage. I still think the wind isn't quite where it needs to be, so that might get taken out of the rotation, even though the melee strike is a really powerful one. And again, I'm going to enjoy a bit of dinner. I'm almost done. Sierra 2 on the field. What's taking so long there? Surround them and finish them off. I guess I said I was going to do pilot customization as well, but Rift of the Necrodancer caught my attention. Okay, let's leave the allied tanks alone for the time being. Apologies if you're hearing the remnants of my dinner. I'll try and keep that to a minimum. Looks like we've got 2 mechs and a handful of tanks. There's only 2 listed here. Oh, these are my tanks. Okay, so... Nope, 3 mechs. Okay, so let's start with the tanks. Shotgun. Okay, a marksman rifle. I want to see... Okay, they're not attacking anybody this round. And an autocannon. So for the most part, short range, but they're also kind of starting at short range. What are the bad guys packing as far as mech. So they've got a marksman rifle and a handgun. That's not firing this round. Shotguns not getting in close enough to cause... well, eventually it does, but they're anticipating me moving in for the shot, so I'm going to have to disrupt those assumptions. Of course, the problem is, depending on the direction that I go, I'm going to wind up spraying that shotgun shot somewhere, so I think my Sleipnir is pretty much forced to move to the right. Okay, the mechs actually aren't doing that much this round, so let's start... Okay. So first thing I want to do is make sure that the Sleipnir is reasonably safe and in a position to cause trouble. Second thing I want to do, though, is... how does that work? I also don't want to end them in a spot where they're in danger, so I think I can get away with 3 shots. Oh, not anymore. Okay, and you can see that they're already committed to the shot here, so it's not going to give my Sleipnir a ton of time to get out of the way, but it's enough. Now, one thing I might want to have tried if the Sleipnir was faster, or if I used a lot of jets, would be to maybe try and turn the shotgun around on its allies. But that's a pretty big assumption in terms of what I like. I just don't think that's a very realistic expectation. And there's other things that I can do in the meantime. So, for instance, I want to see if I can line up 2 for 1, maybe. Okay, looks like I'm still cooking a bit. Should at least give us a start. Definitely want to move these tanks. Actually, if this is an autocannon, this is one-on-one on the autocannon, so I don't want to do that, but I can maybe just move completely to the side. Oh, this is going to be exciting. So the challenge is I have to try and outrun the... melee attack. There's not a lot of chance of this thing doing that much damage, but... Okay, this thing has a regular cannon, so we can actually probably just stay still. So what if we just fire a good old-fashioned shell? Okay, so that doesn't work, but I still feel like there's room for just a good old-fashioned I fire something big and heavy at you that will explode. Yeah, I keep putting people in the way. And the thing is, there's not really that clear of a shot no matter where I go. So let's say we go the very end of the turn. All right, there's definitely a chance that the projectile doesn't move fast enough to hit my ally. Hey, Joshy, man. I don't know smartest man on... I don't even know if I count as smartest man in this channel at the moment. Definitely not Minister of Finance. In fact, Canada's Minister of Finance... I don't want to sound too... Like, inevitably people are going to complain about partisanship regardless of what, what they do. But I think, for those of you that don't know, Canada's Minister of Finance is a very impressive woman named Chrystia Freeland. And one of the reasons why she's so impressive is that she was in Ukraine during the Cold War, and was definitely working sort of for the promotion of sort of freedom and democracy. And one of the interesting anecdotes, apparently, some of the files have been released, and the professor at the university she was at was apparently I don't know if it would be right to call him a KGB asset. Anyways, his ties to the KGB. And the plan was to just bury her under language homework to invalidate her visa and essentially have sort of this pretext to kick her out of the country. But in addition to doing all of her extracurricular work, she apparently just rose to the occasion and just killed it on the homework as well. So, there was certainly not a particularly popular politician in Russia, let's say. And this was sort of known before, before Russia was in the news for other reasons. And there's actually sort of an effort made to sort of smear her in a few different outlets, because she's sort of perceived as being this somewhat, dangerous figure. But yeah, needless to say, there are some so I don't think it's a bad thing that there are career politicians. I'm not even cynical enough to say that, all politicians are just as bad. You shouldn't support any of them, right? Really don't have a lot of time for that kind of talk either. But in the case of Chrystia Freeland, I think regardless of your political stripe, it is really hard to look at someone like that and not be just, a little more proud that they are representing your country. And I mean, let's keep in mind, she was the one who was responsible for trade negotiations during the previous U.S. administration. So that's not exactly an easy job either. So, and worked as a journalist before that. So, yeah, definitely a very accomplished and impressive woman. So even if you are not, I'm making an assumption here that for the most part the audience is liberal. Maybe not liberal as in the political party liberal, but just generally I'm kind of assuming that people are, a little more sort of free to do your thing. Like that sort of liberal. And just like care about people, the usual thing that you'd see like soy eating wimps like me like. But yeah, I don't know, like it's one of these figures that I sort of feel like, and I try to find versions of this like for other parties as well, but given that she's in the current government, Ministry of Finance is definitely something. I mean, honestly, I'd be happy to see her as Prime Minister. But I'm not going to become Minister of Finance so long as somebody like that is taken the role. Okay. Now that gave me a nice digression, but I still need to figure out how I'm going to plant this machine gun. Maybe this is a time for me to move the unit. Well, there's possibilities here. Because we can take out... Ah, yes. No. Nope, this is a pure movement round. So I'm going to hop from hill to hill. So I'm hoping this will put us in a good position for the next turn. I thought that was 99% concussed. I'm like, what is this gun? Oh, they lied about the cover. Oh, maybe they didn't. Okay, unfortunately, shield was not the thing I really wanted to take out there, and looks like we didn't tag this guy in the end, so I may wind up tripping over it. That's a big problem if I do. Nope. Okay, looks like we dodged the worst of it. That guy's going to be crashing. So they're not falling for quite the reasons I thought they would, but we may be able to take that unit out first round. Yeah, they're done. Pilot concussed. So that's some good scrap for us too. Oh no, we're far from death. And holy crap, we do some serious damage as a Sleipnir. Alright, are they here for the cargo? Security team, make sure they don't breach our defenses. I don't think there was any cargo. I think this was just us helping some people in need. Okay, so seems to me like this is a fairly obvious case for the machine gun here. Like, there's a side of me that also said, well, okay, there's one other version of this where we move up and we get a good... actually, I think I like this a little bit more. So instead of having to worry about a target moving... So, like, from the perspective of the machine gun, right, this is moving left to right, so I'm going to miss more. This thing I get to unload completely in its back. This thing's coming at me with a shotgun, so I do need to get out of there. Yeah, so I'm also presenting my back in those cases too, but it's just at the edge of the effective range. And I can slightly tweak things to my favor by sort of fighting on my way out. So one of the nice things that this does is it makes me face the like the source of the damage. And we're basically going to do the same thing that the machine gunner did. In fact, there's one more clever thing I can do. That's if I stop moving here, they get to fire into the back of their ally. Now, if I can, I would like to try and make life a little bit easier for this unit, or make life a little bit easier for my Sleipnir by putting some pressure on units on this side. Unfortunately, it looks like this unit... Ooh, that's the marksman rifle too, so... Well, you know what? No, do not. He bravely ejects. Maybe it does make sense to just whack him, like walk into them with the shield. Okay, so we'll run out the threat, and then the rest of it is spent clearing out the other target. Okay. So I've got a little bit of a Charlie Foxtrot going on in the corner here. So actually the funny thing is it might be just as easy for me to slice my way out of the problem. Like, I'm running really hot. But definitely saves me the trouble. Okay. So I think that clever business that I did with the Sleipnir doesn't really apply anymore, but let's see how the turn winds up. Oh, hang on. I gotta figure out what to do with the autocannon. Yeah, there may be some friendly fire. What I think I'll do is we'll just zip around the side. All right. Do I get away with this? Oh, that's beautiful. So as you can see, I'm definitely taking some damage here, but I'm facing them head on. Okay, so that thing's not going to fire at all now. So again, the cleverness in terms of friendly fire is not gonna activate. I'm hoping I don't trip over the Hulk. One thing that didn't turn out was we didn't crash into them, and so they are going to get their secondary attack off. Okay, pilot's down. So we get to gang up on this unit next turn. This tank's looking in pretty rough shape. How you doing, Vanguard Master? I hope you've been able to put some good work in on your GoFundMe, or that you've been able to take a break. Yeah, no, we're definitely sorry, Joshua, man. I don't think I saw your word. Are we gonna die? No. I express the caution because I think one of the fun ways to play this game is to work out the what ifs in the back of your head. But I think there are very few circumstances where I actually have to suffer too much for the choices that I make. Okay. So this unit's crashed, but it's still able to fire. I don't have a full heat bar anymore, so I may be able to just do... Oop. Some silly ninja nonsense. No. If I'm gonna do the silly ninja nonsense, I gotta be really precise on the... I mean, that I just gotta do so I can see it. So we're trying to defend this guy as well as we can. I have a feeling that this tank might crash. I believe the only time you lose out in terms of points is if you actually lose the vehicle. Okay. So what I want to do here is just set up the machine gunner so that they're in a good position for when the unit comes moving in. This is probably overkill, but... Yeah, so that really only applies to like the second half of the shot, but it's what I got, right? So... Okay, I want to make sure... So we're going to stay still for the shotgun, and then we're going to get in a little bit closer so we clear the target. And then the last thing we need to do is just make sure... Okay, so it looks like I did actually wind up tripping over something. I'm just gonna get the Sleipnir out of the threat. Doing all right. Haven't done anything yet on the GoFundMe as we've been working on a system for the game. You plan on taking some time to sit down, remember all the essays you ever wrote in uni, and remember the writing techniques you learned to organize your thoughts before you sit down and work on it. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks you'll be able to sit down and do some writing. Yeah, I mean relatively early because I'm relatively late. But I'm glad you feel like you're getting some momentum. Again, it's a tricky one, right? Because like I know one of the really big factors that I've learned from a lot of reasonably successful people, at least in terms of economists, have been the value of sort of realizing when, like, so some people say like the value of giving up, and I don't really think they see it that way because for them, like they only have so much time to work on a problem, and so they have an alternative that is like they have an alternative that is more attractive and probably will give them like a publication or something like that, whereas this other thing hasn't maybe quite been delivering the way that they wanted. But the thing is that everything gets hard. I don't think I've ever written an essay. Actually, that's not true. I've had a couple of essays where like it really just sort of seemed to come from nowhere, and I had the fun parts of writing and not the drawbacks. But for the most part, like everything feels like it's a disaster and that you're never going to get through it. And you don't want to throw in the towel for that, because that's also the necessary part. So it's always really tough to... The reason I'm saying this, I hate starting comments with what people will regard as failure, but it's always really hard for me to encourage people sticking with stuff because sometimes that's actually not what they need. But with that caveat in mind, I am glad that you've been working on the underlying product, because of course the GoFundMe is a means for realizing this vision that you have. And I think being able to deliver on it and, being able to have a clear idea on exactly this thing that you're realizing, and of course, realizing it within the budget that you've got, because I know you certainly have much bigger plans for the game than necessarily what, your fundraising options are going to get you. I'm assuming you'd basically have to be acquired by Microsoft to, make the game that you've got in your head. But I think it's really cool that you've been able to kind of balance those two things. The only other thing I'll say about the writing in uni, like that can be helpful in its own way, but there is also a style of writing they'll teach you in university, which like it's English, but it's not the type of stuff people want to read. Hopefully some of the feedback I gave you's helped push you more towards the conversational style. But the one thing I can definitely say, definitely organizing your thoughts is really important. I know a lot of what I talked about was very much focusing, and this is largely, essentially what I'm doing here is just dealing with the rhetoric of a GoFundMe page, because one thing I was a little surprised by when I clicked on it is the fact that there's multiple read more buttons. And so assuming that you can't deliver the knockout punch of like, my God, I have to back this game immediately. What you're really fighting for is someone to push that read more button, because they're making a commitment of their time. And because you have to hit that multiple times, the order in which you're presenting things might be different from how you, as the person creating this, may think of it. Actually, come to think of it, I think Mike Rose has got an interesting talk. This was when No More Robots was like a brand new publisher, and I think the only game that they'd released was Descenders. But he actually kind of talked about how what the designer thinks is the game is very rarely what the player thinks the game is. So like apparently for him, I think it's Rage Squid that made Descenders. I don't know, I've never played it, but like here I am trying to have good wholesome entertainment for the whole family, and you have to just go in with your emotes. But yeah, no, he's talking about like the thing that apparently would always kind of come up is like, yeah, it's procedurally generated like BMX track levels, and it's like it's procedurally generated, it's wonderful. And you know, like developers are really and rightly excited about procedurally generated stuff. It's cool, right? Like, you like building model planes, you like building model trains, you like building things. Well, what if you could teach a computer to make levels? Well, then you're going to be surprised. You know, you're not just playing the level that you thought about. You're playing something that, you know, you're creating something that's been made by a system, and you were the one to create that system, but even you don't know what's going to come out. Of course, developers are going to be excited by that. The thing that players were talking about with Descenders was the bike riding, which never came up in any of their individual pitches. So most of the comments were sort of geared sort of towards that, essentially sort of trying to give people an idea in terms of why this is something worth backing, and to do so in a way that, like, okay, this is going to make me sound like just a complete jerk, but obviously we were talking about how time is precious and you need to, you know, well, it's implied by the Economist example, but the example that I would give is that, like anybody who walks a lot, I run into a lot of panhandlers. I don't particularly like being rude to panhandlers. In Vancouver, it was a little bit easier because there were some people who I'd seen like actually grab a purse and like run out of a Starbucks. So it's maybe a little bit shorter with them than I would with others. But, you know, I'm maybe not such a generous soul that I always give money. But I also think, you know, the type of person who like uses that as a chance to make themselves feel big, like that's the sort of person you really want to avoid. Like it's kind of like the person who, you know, they're mean to customer service reps, even if like the service is kind of crummy. Like there's just somebody who, to act that way in public, kind of signals some other undesirable features. So yes, because I know all of you will wind up on a date with me at some point. Don't be mean to the people at the coffee shop. But no, like, but one of the things that is actually the hardest for me is I generally don't break stride. Like even if I'll give some money, I very rarely have change on me. Very rarely break my stride. But I can remember both in Vancouver, but even in Ottawa, there are a couple of people who really do not get to the point. Like as far as a pitch is concerned, like it's a 2 out of 10. Where like I'm already halfway down the block before they've gotten like the introduction out of the way, and just I like there's not enough time to listen to every story like that. So I'm bad at this, right? You all know me for the super long system talk. You know me for really meandering to the point and you know, taking 8 paragraphs to say something that would normally take a sentence. But of course, you know, I got 3 hours to fill. Whereas a GoFundMe, it's really clear that it's not just, you know, the short synopsis and then you can rely on people having access to that lower part. It's like you actually need to earn the next few paragraphs before you can get them to go to the big info dump. And so that leads itself to a very different structure in terms of writing. And I mean, it's a tough one too. Like it's an interesting writing exercise because You know, like my first reaction to stuff like that is just like kick the ground and be like, ah, you're cramping my art. But like constraints are interesting to work with. Like there's an article that I did which I was reasonably happy with where it wound up, but the feedback that I'd gotten was we'd like this to be a lot more personal and to be a lot more about you. This reads more like an essay or an article. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I thought this was an article. So a lot of the feedback from someone whose opinion I really value led to that more formal style, and I actually think that they were right. I actually think the article was better for it, and so I felt really bad adding the personal stuff back. But the thing is that I'm accountable to the editor. The editor wants something more personal. So again, I can kick the ground and say, this is cramping my art, how dare they? It's like, okay, that's fine, but maybe I shouldn't take that editor's money, because I'm pretty sure they're paying out of pocket for the submissions. But it's just it's a fun constraint. I did actually wind up with something that I didn't have in the original article as a result of trying to make it more personal, and hopefully it's good enough that you'll all get a chance to see it. But anyway. But yeah, all of that is to say is that the style of writing that you'll learn in university is not necessarily like it's the style of writing that they're going to teach basically assumes that the reader is actually going to sit there and read the whole thing and grade and read it reasonably carefully, because like obviously you have all those like grammar notes and such. And the fact of the matter is that most of the time you're going to be talking to people like those panhandlers are talking to me, which is like, I am on my way home or I'm on my way to work. There's a very small window in which, you can make the case for me to take action. And that may sound really awful and cruel, but like this is happening for just about everything you do in life, right? There's just not enough time to get through a bunch of things. And that's what the reason why I wanted to take the time. But I mean, again, it does teach you some good things in terms of organizing your thoughts and like what is the point? Like what does this section serve? Is there a way to phrase it a better way? If you got it, hopefully you had a good English teacher and they, let you read Orwell, Politics in the English Language. Obviously I really like that essay, but clearly there are other style essays as well. Drunk and White is like one that always comes up. Yeah, like hopefully what you will be taking away is much more about how to present your argument or present your case as well as you possibly can, rather than Webster's dictionary defines fundraising as, so. Anyway, for the time being, you're able to stay afloat and continue development, which at the end of the day is the end goal. The GoFundMe is to be able to continue development after you're no longer able to put down your own money. The feedback was great, and that's the whole reason why you'll be able to sit down and fully dedicate a good chunk of time to it. Back when the world was young and you were 19 doing basic training in Victoria, you were scammed out of some money a few times by a pretty face. You're a slow learner. I'm sorry to hear that. For those of you who would like to be honestly have your money taken away by a pretty face, the donation button's down below. No. I like my meandering because I often learn something during my 8-pair. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of aware that it's a style that works for people. I think there are better ways. Like, so the game is completely on hold during this. Now, in fairness, there's a member of community working on something that's important to them, and it's nice to be able to catch up and see how it's going because, what's this? I can't remember the exact saying, but it's, success has many fathers, but failure's an orphan, right? So, you don't want to be that person who only asks when things are going well. Like you want to be engaged and asking how things are going when you have no idea how well it's going. And the answer could be it's going terribly. I've made the biggest mistake of my life. What was I thinking? Oh crap, this is not the move I wanted to make. But yeah, no, I've had the good fortune of getting to see a lot of games that I've really enjoyed in various stages of development. And so, it's a chance for me to sort of get the inside scoop while I can before Vanguard Master talks about how he used to hang out with a considerably more low rent crowd. Sorry, not low rent crowd, low rent broadcaster before he'd get the Twitch elites playing their stuff. Anyway, got distracted by Discord. What are we talking about? What are we learning now? Vanguard Master is currently working on a game. So, and if you'd like Vanguard Master, definitely feel free to link your stuff. I actually don't have the link in front of me, but I also know you're working on it, so it may not be something you want to share with people. But if it's something that'll help you out, please, you don't even need to ask. I was gonna say, why are you dragging the? Yeah. I was trying to think of me, but for some reason, crowd came out, and I felt like terrible immediately afterwards. Yeah, no problem. Vanguard Master. It's there's, well, even, the best example I can give of this would be Phantom Brigade. Like, Brace Yourself Games is a very successful game developer. I don't think they exactly need me to be flogging their products, right? But they let me share this stuff with you, and hopefully you feel like you've gotten the good part of it. And obviously I feel like I've gotten to play a wonderful game, and I'm really grateful they gave me that chance. So the thing is that, having been given a shot as effectively a nobody, it is nice where you can to just be able to acknowledge that opportunity, and to be able to let people know about their thing. Because the thing is too, is that you never know like what's going to be there. I gave a great example earlier on. Like Binding of Isaac and Caves of Cut are two really popular games that do not suffer for me not necessarily getting them. And yet, they're ones that really haven't been able to stick with me. So does that mean they're bad games? No. But it definitely does indicate that you can be even an incredibly successful game, and it is contingent on you sort of finding the right people, the people who are going to be on board with what you're doing. So, with that in mind, it's why I think it's good. It's why I think it's good in general just to be sort of supportive and let people know. I know the drawback is that if, I'm bad at this, where I give a bunch of different links, and sometimes it becomes overwhelming, or, I'll do hosts or like shout outs, and then it turns out the person's like a jerk. But, you do your best. Like, I think there is something to be said for the principle of charity, and we do the best given the information we've been given. And if somebody shows themselves unworthy of the shout out or unworthy of the attention, then we just don't talk about them afterwards, or we talk about them behind their backs, as all decent and mature people do. All right, let's watch this turn. It's probably a crash. Unbelievable. So we did get the concussion. We also took out their sidearm, but the vehicle did. Is Flogging Molly another one of those oldies bands you like listening to? I face planted into the tank again. Anyways, we wiped him out, so. Command needs to know. Security has been breached. Patrols compromised. Taking heavy casualties. I know. Discord gave me a copy of the chats. You'll be hearing from my lawyers, Mr. Joshy Man. Okay. This one doesn't require a lot of thought. Although I apparently am still succeeding in screwing it all up. So, pretty easy to see what I'm doing here. I'm taking all the rare stuff and then I'm prioritizing scrapping the intact parts because they just cost less. So one small thing that I can do to improve my haul is go to the detailed view, see what... Wait, did they stop saying what the scrap is? I could have sworn there was an option here that would show what the salvage... Okay, that seems weird that would go away, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'll just take whatever salvage I've got. Was Flogging Molly the one from The Departed? Or no, I think The Departed are Dropkick Murphys, aren't they? I don't know. It's hard to keep all these bands sorted in my brain. Okay, 13 left on Firland. We are definitely going to liberate this province, come hell or high water. There's not going to be too much for me to play around with as far as the scrap is concerned, so we should be able to get into the battle site pretty quickly. In fact, we can just overdrive it. Yeah, that's the movie I was referring to, Joshy Man. Apparently, so my understanding is that's a remake of a Chinese, or maybe would have been Hong Kong at the time. Or Hong Kong would have been within China anyway. But a foreign film called Infernal Affairs, but I've never seen the original. I've just seen the Hollywood version. Okay. I'm sorry, but I'm going to finish my dinner, and then you have my undivided attention, except when I decide to go on another rant about minutia. So, just a second. Please talk amongst yourselves about your favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movies, and why is Titanic the best one? I don't know why I think a mouthful of bread is going to go any faster, but this is what I'm struggling with. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that. That was a big mistake. There's nothing worse than just sitting there chewing and being like, "Oh man, I hope this loading screen is interesting." So I have not actually seen Django Unchained, and Inception's a really good movie. It's one of those movies I'd like to consider the one that you download while you're waiting to watch Titanic. So went to break bread and the bread broke you. All right, let's load up. So I'm going to start with the wind, and that's just because we know we've got heat problems. So at this point, there's nothing more that I can do to improve the capacity. I either need to be dropping thrusters. If I do that, I am either giving up power. Well, yeah, I'm giving up power, potentially getting power for my walk, but... Well, actually, is that such a bad thing, though? So the left sidestep sounds almost silly. Let's throw a heat core in there as well. So first of all, that's getting my speed up. So the idea for this one's going to be that we just get in close and whack them hard. This Elbrus is looking pretty handsome too. So passive heat sink. Well, this is my chance for an improved capacitor. So I suspect I've probably gone too far in the other direction, but we'll give that a shot for starters. Sleipnir is definitely the one that's the lowest equipped. But the thing is, I'm actually pretty happy with the way that it's working, so even though it's maybe not... As far as the game score is concerned, maybe it's not the strongest of my mechs. It's actually the one I'm probably the happiest with. So I do want to get the Ray in at some point. I have a very weak preference for this Elbrus. Or sorry, this Nox compared to the Elbrus. So give up the heat dissipation for a bit of mass. I don't see why there would be any improvements in here, but not bad to check. Oh, there was an assault rifle as well. Probably aren't going to use it, but... Well, I mean, so on paper it's better. The thing is that I've always wound up really disappointed with the Astra when it comes down to it. I think I'm just going to stick with my existing loadout. Okay, so against my better judgment, we are going to bring the same mechs as last time. I suppose one adjustment to this might be to switch out the bull for the... no, I'd actually like to... I'd kind of like to put the bull through its paces. Although I am going to make one final adjustment, and that is... I like the way the lance looks, but I wanted to try and do something original with the with the shotgun, but this isn't quite working for me. Priorities. You have this weird association with whenever someone mentions Leonardo DiCaprio, you think of Brad Pitt and Meet Joe Black. You have no idea why that connection exists. Yeah, were there like two big... Like, were there two big vehicles that they were... Because, like, I don't know that much about Meet Joe Black. But I guess Leonardo DiCaprio's, like, real breakout, I guess, would have been the... the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet. So did they come out around the same time? Just a reminder, the melee unit's going to have to go for short bursts. That doesn't really work that well on this level because it's a big open field. Alright. Decelerating, let's flank and finish them off. Oh, I like this song. Okay, so it looks like they're starting off with the rockets. Really doesn't feel like there's that large of a force. Okay, that's why it doesn't feel like there's a large force, because they're flanking me. In fact, it probably makes the most sense to deal with these. There's two reasons why I would want to deal with this group first. One, they're closer, so I can do the damage early. I actually remember this map reasonably well. But number two, it also gives me some cover. Now, that's not going to be as relevant given the fact that this marksman unit is currently firing its missiles. But it's definitely going to be a problem that's probably... Wait, really? 479? That doesn't feel like a particularly fearsome weapon. Okay. Well, let's see what the loadouts are then. Okay, so we've got a machine gun, an assault rifle, a marksman rifle with a compact launcher. These things fire autocannon and shotguns, so those are... Well, these guys want short range too. Yeah, I think we can get the upper hand if we go into close quarters. Now, the biggest problem I'm going to run into is this guy with the assault rifle coming in on my tank. Because I don't have a lot of good places to hide them. Could try hiding them on this side, but... So if I just run them into the maw. Okay, that doesn't inspire confidence. If we do something like this, kind of a detour. It's still kind of teasing the edge of optimal range, and it doesn't do that much. Okay, well... It's a start. I honestly don't have that much better to do, so... Okay, now I'm actually really not feeling the effects of that shortened range. I am still overheating a bit, but definitely the extra mobility is something I appreciate. So we're gonna focus on that. And... it's 50%, so I think I should probably run around the corner. And by run around the corner, I mean not trip over the enemy tank. Okay, that's a start. Now, in a perfect world... Okay. I'd be able to start this shotgun, and it would finish just in time for the... melee strike, but that... this unfortunately is not a perfect... Well, it's darn close. So if we start this thing early... Yeah, we sort of finish our job just in time for the hit. So I'm not going to fire just because I want to give myself the option of blocking whatever they're putting in. But clearly I've got two appealing targets for a shotgun in the next round. Algren says, now, are these the actual enemy routes, or is this the suggested route for the AI? So the story for this game is that basically you have an advanced AI that will give you certain knowledge of your enemy's intent 5 seconds into the future. The reason why I specify intent is that you have a role to play in terms of how the combat turns out. So the path is definitely what the AI is going to take. However, so let's take a good example here. So we've got an autocannon, which is going to be firing after the Sleipnir in this round. Now, if by some miracle I could get the Sleipnir on the other side of the map, the action that the tank is going to fire at the Sleipnir is guaranteed. But if the Sleipnir happens to be like here at that moment, well, the tank's going to turn around and fire into its ally. So in this case, the reason why I specify intent is that if you take an action that, let's say, knocks out the legs of a mech, or it breaks the wheels on a tank, you make them fire, or you just outright destroy the mech, clearly the action as indicated on the timeline is not going to turn out. In fact, I've had a lot of very dramatic moments in this game resulting exactly from that kind of interaction. But that caveat aside, I think it's fair to say that the AI is giving you a degree of certainty with regards to the actions that that it's going to take. So here's an interesting example about where this becomes a difficulty. So let's say I wait out the shot here, and then I kind of run in to mess around with the AI. Number one, I wind up walking over my own unit, so we can probably deal with that. But number two, notice that the angle of the attack slightly shifts to the left, and so I actually wind up causing my ally to potentially take some damage from this unit here. Yeah, it's a really, I mean, so the one thing that's great about this, of course, is that the concept allows for this great system of sort of setting up the turn and then watching it play out, a little bit like Into the Breach. But of course, the animation on this is just so good. Pete Thornycroft, ladies and gentlemen. But no, like the whole team is just really, really skilled. And so on top of the fact that you have this neat concept that actually plays quite well, you have this you have this really rewarding setup of you know, I'm working out my plans. I'm doing my best, I guess. And you get to see them play out in a very dramatic way in the next turn. So what I'm doing here is I'm sort of moving around the side of the hill. I'm doing my dash because not only is this outside of the damaging range for, or well, outside of the ideal range for the autocannon, they're sort of trying to hit a target moving, I guess for them it's right to left. You know, instead of something barreling straight down at them, they're zipping across, so that's already harder to hit. And then I'm just getting in this nice little position here to take a couple pot shots at them. Now, I don't want to hit my own characters, so that's why I switched to this unit afterwards. But we're also at the end of the timeline, so that's going to resolve itself at the end of the turn. Okay, so I've got a machine gunner. Now, the machine gunner is not necessarily slow, but they do need to stand still for their attack. And they do have a shield to protect themselves. So in this case, I think I'm actually... One thing that's nice about this machine gun is that I've seen in the past... I've seen it take out... I've seen it take out enemy units, like, in a single run. So... I'm just going to peel off that... machine gunner and see how it turns out. So one thing I'm going to do here is just take a look at the plan for the turn, make sure that nobody's doing any embarrassing crashes. Nope. So now we'll watch the magic happen. You can press space to slow it down. So this guy's already gotten the absolute worst of it. They might actually get knocked out right off the bat. 4%. Okay, so took out their primary attack. I totally forgot who they fired those rockets at. So this guy's already down to 40% HP. And we have our best reply against this tank. Okay, so at minimum they're crashing. And that tank was destroyed. So that was a good turn for us. So this unit's still in the game. They've got a compact launcher to make us miserable with. This tank has no idea what it wants to do. So what we're gonna do, we'll march ahead. And I'll just whop him with my sword again. Okay, so this unit's going to attack at the very end of the turn. They're also going to go after the Sleipnir. Now, this unit doesn't have a whole lot left as far as concussion's concerned. I suspect the rockets are actually coming after the Sleipnir. So here's how I'm going to handle that. Oh, I'm still attacking this Joker. That's a darn shame. Okay. Okay, so there's two problems with that. Number one, it doesn't really address the rocket problem. Number two, it causes friendly fire straight into my shotgunner. So I can at least move the shotgunner differently. So let's start with that. We'll get them to open up on the... Now this is overkill if I go after the crashed tank, but the question is, what do I do otherwise? Because I'm really running out of... I'm really running out of things that I can do with the Sleipnir before I gotta pay that rocket bill. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna move around the side like this. And then I'm gonna dash right back into the hill that I came from. And hopefully this is gonna be enough to give those missiles the slip. And in fact, I'm gonna basically just make a nuisance of myself on the other side of the map. So everybody else is gonna have to sort of work around my unit. Yeah, I mean, the shotgun does feel like overkill, but it's the option that I've got. Okay, so this shotgunner is going to cause me quite a bit of misery early on. So the good news is that this enemy is already taken care of, so I can move back. And if I'm particularly clever, I should be able to... Yeah, so there's this nice little batch of friendly fire that happens here. So again, remember what I was saying about the angle of the approach, right? Like, so in this case here, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of flak that hits this unit, but nothing I'm going to freak out about. And in the meantime, this guy that's running basically in a straight line is going to get the most of the shotgun blast. So then I, at my leisure, just kind of hold back and fire with the machine gun once they hit an optimal range. So like for me, okay, yeah, 83 is a decent number. Now this part here is actually a less ideal shot because again, I'm moving side to side with my machine gun, but I obviously don't feel as bad. In fact, what I'm probably going to do is I'll sort of say, okay, I've had my fun up to this point, and then I'm just going to move out of the shotgun range. So I don't expect that much performance from the machine gun past this point, but I don't need to worry about that because I've got reinforcements in the form of the Sleipnir coming in. And Mr. Autocannon's not really getting a lot of love here. So let's go... I want to get them in early. The other thing I want to do is make sure that they're not in... I don't want them to be anywhere for retaliation. Ugh, that's brutal. Okay, I'm not taking any chances on that. So what's probably going to happen is this unit's going to reply next turn and take out this pilot who has only got like 4% left on their health. The one thing that saves me is that this shotgun attack takes a long time and they're kind of just, I think, in the first quarter or so of the attack, maybe first half, while I'm moving on. So it's possible I might be able to get out of harm's way. And I'm definitely kind of hoping for a bit of luck there. Also get to see the melee strike in the background. So this is where I start to move to dodge the attack. And now let her rip on the... Now the really interesting one is going to be what happens with these rockets. Nice. So if you want to see what that looked like in... There's a lot going on there. So this is what it looked like from a few different angles in real time. So I believe the intention is once the battle is complete, there will be sort of like a full account of everything that happened. But right now your replays are limited to the turn before, but it still looks pretty great. So, you know, you just need to find the right timing and... Let's try that again. I don't think anybody's going to get tired of seeing one of these. What a great looking game, huh? Okay. So first of all, we probably want a bit of an accounting of what is, like, what's in play still. So it looks like everybody's kind of ignoring the autocannon, which I'm actually pretty happy about. One sorry state of affairs, though, is the Sleipnir's... Like, everybody wants a piece of the Sleipnir, and they're in a pretty exposed position. So, I think the funny thing is that having dashed out, this is almost like Han Solo, like, running down the corridor after the stormtroopers, only to find the hangar full of them. It's like, oh, little too hot here. It does look like there's a friendly fire opportunity. Yeah, so I'm a little uncomfortable with the rockets that are on their way, but I think I can live with it. Get a chance to do my sword thing. Yeah, we're actually just going to stand and wait for the next turn. Okay, so shotgun pretty much for the entire turn on the machine gunner. So if I had a good target, I would be using this time to hit them. In this case, I'm just going to take advantage of the hill. I'll wait half the time behind the hill, and then the other half I'm going to get into position. So this is a kill on the tank. The only catch is it takes more than one turn. Still, I think that's a fair price to pay. Oh, this is interesting. So they go nuts with the machine gun, then they dash, and then they say, you know what, screw this, I'm out. Which means I don't actually want that friendly fire anymore. Which is fine, because I can just do the same trick that I always do, and that's dash between the rocks. And that will help me with the the missiles coming after me too. Okay, autocannon broke. They're definitely putting their life in my hands. Hopefully I don't betray them. Mind you, there's going to be a big dog pile on this guy at the end of the turn. So the really tricky part here is just figuring out how not to crash into the tanks. So like I can try and walk around the edge like this, but notice like this takes almost the whole turn to get in position to fire my shotgun. So what I'm trying to do is move in such a way. So maybe if I just wait for them to dash. Yeah, then I open myself up to the machine gun fire. So if I dash, I overheat. If I walk... Well, if I walk... Yeah, I'm not really going to get where I want. Guess this is the drawback of skimping on my, my dissipation. Yeah, it's what I got. Okay. So this marksman unit is not moving anywhere. Works for me. So all that the melee unit needs to do is not go into a bad position. I am reasonably confident that I don't need to worry about this thing. But I will put up my shield just in case. I'll just put the Sleipnir as bait. Yeah, that's done. Mech ran out, screamed, "I immediately regret my decision," and then ran away. Yeah, the Sleipnir in my lineup always exists to run away. I feel like there's something of a consensus, at least among the people I've seen play this, and it can be a very satisfying way of playing, is to have just big chonky mechs that walk all over everything, and you kind of play, 10-pin bowling, but with mechs and tanks. And like that can be a lot of fun. Like there's something very amusing about being something just like larger than life and barreling over anything that gets in your way. But I've always sort of felt that this game excels when you're just pulling off these really slick moves, and I sort of feel like the really satisfying tactical choices tend to be things that involve sort of flanking and all that, all the sort of stuff that you'd normally associate with mobility, right? Like your ability to sort of move anywhere on the battlefield, take advantage of cover. You're not going to do that with very heavy mechs, and you're also not going to. You're not going to feel the same incentive if you can just sort of stand and sort of defy everything that's thrown at you. I will say that one thing that surprised me was the big, heavy shield users. I actually still tend to want to be very mobile as well. And that's just for the simple fact that if you've got this like dreadnought and like your whole group isn't moving with it, it's not going to be a very, not that the dreadnought was intended to be shielding things, but like if you've just got this thing which is intended to be the thing that's eating all of the enemy bullets, well, the enemy is probably not going to oblige you by aiming at the really fearsome, well-armored vehicle. They're probably going to want to focus on the high damage but very fragile mech that is currently in its range. So, for me, I sort of feel like if you want a lot of balance in your crew, you need to acknowledge the fact that probably your more defensive mech is going to be the one that is walking behind. Which means you miss out on some of the speed advantages of your other one. Because like the thing is that like let's say you want to try and keep the mechs together as sort of a unit with one heavy and then sort of 3 lights. Well, that's all well and good, right? You can kind of control. It would actually be kind of interesting if you could do like a half speed option so that you don't have to dance around in the timeline that much. Yeah, kill the mage is a much more concise way of putting it. Like, let's say that I had no problem keeping everybody back to sort of move along with the giant mech in my lineup. The game has missiles now, so if I was somebody defending against that, I would take all the artillery I have, obliterate the team before it ever shows up, and then like, okay, sure, they've got the Phantom Brigade equivalent of an Atlas. That's something that I'm gonna have to deal with. But because everything else was picked off at a distance, sure, I'll just have 4 or 5 even medium mechs just slowly pick that thing apart. I don't know how many of you played MechWarrior Online. I'm not particularly good at it, but one very memorable experience I had was, and this was kind of selfish of me because I'm pretty sure my team was winning on points. So if I died in this one-on-one, we would have lost the match. But the other, my rationale was if I run away, I'm far more likely to get taken down by this thing's missiles or its AC. But like basically, even though probably my favorite BattleTech mech is the Atlas, in MechWarrior Online, I actually really like the lights. I particularly like the Locust, in fact. Now, it's been a few patches since I played, so that may have changed, but actually, I can't say I won on one because, of course, the thing is, you know, like it's an Atlas at the end of a match, so it's gotten a few shots. And of course, I'm in a light, so if I've had a few shots, I'm probably already dead. But in this case, it was just a matter of like running circles around the thing. It could never get a lock. There's no melee in MechWarrior Online, so far as I can tell. If it is, they've only added it recently. And so essentially, I just sort of worked the thing down. I only focused on its back center torso with a couple of medium lasers and then eventually a machine gun. And it wasn't even a question. Like, if the thing hit me once, I'd probably be dead, but it never hit me. It never had a chance to hit me because I'm a really, really small target that's moving really fast and really close. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So if you ever played MWO, I think it's not Tourmaline Desert. But it's one of the vacuum areas. So there's like that. There's the upper part of the level, and then there's like that underground. There's almost this chamber. So I suppose in theory they could have actually backed up against the wall there. For some reason they didn't, because that absolutely would have been the right way to handle me. Then again, I suppose if they backed up against the wall, then I would have just run around the corner and we would have won by points. But yeah, no, it's essentially this guy, he did his best, but like there was just not really any way to maneuver that thing in a way that would, I suspect for the most part, I just wasn't anywhere in his field of view. And certainly for the times that I was, it was just really hard to spot. And I know some of his more fearsome armaments are going to be on hard points, which aren't as nimble as some of the others, so... Yeah, I probably, for most of these stories, I think it's more of a statement of the lack of skill on the other player than any talent on my part. But that like, I'm reasonably proud of that showdown, especially because MechWarrior Online actually has a fairly nice community, but I remember there were some rather nasty comments about throwing the match. But I don't know, it felt like the right thing to do at the time, so I did it. We won, so it's kind of hard to argue with success. But I don't know. I'll put it to you this way: like if I didn't feel very sure of it, I wouldn't do it again. And chances are, if I start playing more MWO as I move up on skill, I'll probably want to avoid moves like that. All right, let's take a look at the goodies we can pick up. That was a good run. We almost could walk away with everything. So as an Astra assault rifle, I'm almost certainly not going to use it, but it's nice to have in the inventory. You know what? Put my money where my mouth is, and then that'll just give us some extra scrap. All right, we're still liberating the province, but we know where we're going next, the camp. So we're all healed up, so I will hit the overdrive as soon as we... Well, actually, the way I normally like doing it is we're on the edge of the radar, so we go stealth. And then once we have no option but to be seen, close the gap like that. For the most part, though, we've just been able to do the regular run, so... Sitting ducks, you're looking through the latest report when you hear one of your pilots laughing and calling out from the front of the base. Look at this, your pilot says. They're sitting ducks. Sure enough, on the radar, you can see that there are some enemy mechs up ahead. I think they're gearing up to join the battle over there. He taps the screen where there's a cluster activity. We could get in quick before they know what hit them. Okay, we're going to suit up. I think I'm going to bench the wind for this one. We'll put the ray in instead. Okay, I am, however, going to play around with the loadouts. So, is there a better upper body? Better mass, give up a handful of integrity, but not enough to... I think I prefer this, actually, so we just need to replace the core, which is a heat. We've been carrying this heat core with us for a while. It looks like hollowed plating, so unless we've got empty, not much I can do about that. 96 integrity. 1-2 heat dissipation. We can probably do a little bit better. Yeah, so this is a 444 weight, so... Could do the little arrowhead. It does look funny, but... Can't bring myself to put the arrowhead on that thing. Okay, we've got a right arm to play with. Yeah, mass is okay, but and we got some Astras to play with. So this thing on paper is a significantly better weapon. So we'll try it. I just know I've usually wound it disappointed. But the Sleipnir's finally joined the 5 Club. Okay, now I really don't want to change anything about the bull. It's this thing is definitely delivering. So this has got a standard core. It occurred to me I could just strip the parts. Makes it so much easier. Oh yeah, but then the mass becomes a problem. Ugh! It has to be in this one. Not crazy about the regenerator, but... I'll live with this. I just hope it was the right one. Okay. So, really tough to follow up the Asgard arm with that, and yeah, we're not changing those. So I'm going to do something really quick with my inventory. I thought there was a select all option. There we go. All right. Should make customization a little bit easier. The Exception, thank you very much for resubscribing for 53 months. You may be the longest sub. I keep saying that. I should really look into it, but... Wherever you are on the list, you always do a really good job of making me feel just a little bit better about my state in the Twitch world. So thank you very much for that. I never take it for granted, but boy do I appreciate it. Okay, I definitely want to mess around with the Ray because this is the first time we're going to deploy it for a while. I do mean it when I say that stuff. Like, again, I don't ever want to get, like, too sort of self-pitying or self-serving on the channel stuff. But, like, there have definitely been times where I've been sort of hanging out in some channels and I'm sort of like, you know, I'm... Like, the worst way you can think about Twitch is like, oh, I'm better than this guy. Why do they have all the viewers? But there is sort of a side of me, like there have been a couple of streams where I'm looking at and I'm like, I'm not 100% sure what I've got that's different than this thing here. And sort of trying to figure out where it went wrong. Or at the very least to sort of be a little bit more appealing or you know, more widespread. That's not really sort of the source of like the long dark nights of the soul or whatever, but there's definitely been a few times where I'm sort of like, I kind of feel like the channel should be somewhere other than where it is right now. And then, you know, if there's like, usually on its own, it's just one of those things that, you know, you can kind of bat that away from the back of your head. But if it comes alongside like one or two other bits of bad news, all of a sudden that's something that you kind of like stew about for a bit. Well, you don't, but I'd stew about for a little bit. And it's almost always been the case, like whenever I start feeling a little too sorry for myself, it's your subs in particular that seem to come in around those times. So, yeah, it's just, you know, you're like a wonderful counterbalance to the mood. Now, with that in mind, please don't consider that to be like some kind of emotional blackmail. So like, one day in the future, you know, when you decide that it's not, you know, the sub isn't quite worth it anymore, like, I will be fine. But it is an opportunity for me to express appreciation because it is something that, like I said, I don't want to take for granted. But it is something that I definitely want to appreciate because it's something that you know, I'm fond of, and certainly has pulled me out of a funk. So I think this Nox arm is probably the good alternative. Yeah, that's a defensive subsystem, so we can put that hollow plating back on. Yeah, that's the one thing I don't want to do is like you know, Twitch has to make its money, and I don't necessarily think, you know, like there's some things that I could do without on the platform. So there are some things that I think it's improved on. Like it's a mixed bag, right? But I don't know. There's lots of stuff to support. The one thing I actually particularly appreciate, the exception, are the emotes. So number one, obviously I'm really grateful for the Eyes of Sin to do that. The Eyes of Sin does tend to undercharge a lot for their emotes, so it's nice to be able to show some support to someone. But the other thing I find kind of funny is people keep referring to them as creepy, and I actually think they're quite charming. The only thing I would maybe change is the Glad emote, the one on the far left that the exception just put up. I sort of feel like that emote could be zoomed in a little bit more on the face, because the other two are. But But yeah, I don't know. I like them, and I don't really see a lot of other emotes that look like that. So I think Sin did a really great job with those, and I'm very happy when I see people use them. I don't think there's a lot more. There's like some fiddling around the edges that I can do, but I think for the most part, I'm happy with the current loadout. I thought I saw an 800, but I think that's actually the... No, that's this shotgun, but my auto's already stronger. So the wind still has heat problems. So I think the only way we can get the heat under control is to give it a charge core. 14.5 is not the end of the world. I wonder if there's a way I can streamline on the helmet. Yeah, 96 at 444, we can do better. Alright, well, I know some of you will be very happy to see 69 is the highest integrity I can get for the lowest mass. Okay, I probably need to scrap some of these, some of the surplus, but the wind's not in the fight anyway, so... Okay, so we're doing an assault. This is a little bit different, so be careful. Dangerous autonomous turrets are dedicated at this site. Wipe out the enemy units to disable them. They're dug in like ticks. Bait the enemies to bring them out of cover, or use indirect fire weapons. Now, that's one thing I don't have. I could try and equip some missile launchers, but not quite for me. And yeah, we'll leave the rest to fate. Look at that handsome crew. I think I'm gonna have to wrap it up after this one though, because I'm definitely feeling quite sleepy. Oh, this is another good one. I'm happy that the last two battles we're doing have got to, like, the whole soundtrack's great, but this is actually one that the composer specifically pointed out as if you like the one you like, you'll probably really like this one too, and he's absolutely correct. Like this is a good one. Even actually the one thing I like about this one is that the build-up in the planning phase, I think, does a really good job of building the anticipation. And, by the way, I've never really appreciated this about this level, but this whole hill where you work your way up, this is actually kind of neat. One thing that's kind of neat about this, I think this is just because of the default Unity setups, but, like, I'm using my gamepad here, which, as you can see, kind of makes for a slightly more sort of cinematic flow. I'm not quite sure. Oh, there we go. That's the zoom. Oh, that's definitely not the zoom. Okay. So, yeah, you can get in closer and then you can sort of crane up like this. Like, just generally, this looks a bit nicer than... Actually, I mean, now that we've got the replay, maybe I can try some, like, virtual cinematography and see whether or not... Like, I don't think I can do the heroic, you know, start like this and then go, oh god. Yeah, it's harder than it looks. I think you probably need a proper Xbox controller to get the sensitivity that you need for the the zoom, but to be able to try and go from the top, sort of like the crane shot. Oop, the zoom didn't work at all on that. That was closer, but obviously I got caught on something. But like obviously you could start, you could start for an opener like this, and then you do sort of a completely meaningless track to the left. So the body of the mech is sort of obscuring the hill until the very moment that the Phantom Brigade comes over. And then presumably like you'd do a cut, but if I had to do it in like one big shot, then it would be sort of open up to the, oh, that's too wide. But yeah, like the thing that's kind of nice is that I don't know whether or not this game is intended to have gamepad support, but like if you have a gamepad, you absolutely can use the buttons to at least sort of cycle through units. I'm not quite sure how you'd... Whoa! Yeah, no, please don't lock in the turn. Yeah, so as far as I can tell, there's no way to pick what actions to take. But if you just want to mess around and have slightly smoother movement than sort of what you see me do, definitely just plug in a gamepad and play with your twin sticks. I'm hoping that Marlon does not watch any of these broadcasts, because I'm assuming he would just be utterly disgusted with my cinematic choices. Okay, so this is their Sleipnir. This thing runs fast. It has an assault rifle, and it's coming straight at for me. I've got a heavy launcher, which wants to make my lance sad. That's 2 heavy launchers that want to make my lance sad. Okay. This is one where I might actually try and throw the lance behind a building, but I don't think it moves fast enough. So one thing, so given the fact that they're kind of committing these, heavy launchers pretty, I was going to say pretty heavily. I kind of like to run the machine gunner in. The problem is my machine gunner, it's nimble, but is not that nimble. So maybe my second best is to just perch on the hill and take out the tanks one by one. There is no way that that is not line of sight. Well, you know what? It is actually kind of marginal. I'll roll with it, but... Okay, so I got a pretty specific plan about how I'm going to use this, how I'm going to use the lance this turn. So I want to make sure that I'm protecting myself from anything that's coming after me. I can do slightly better here. And that's just by making sure that friendly fire does the job when it can. I don't believe my shield is quite wide enough to take care of both sets of incoming fire, so at least this way I can sort of let the enemy do some of my work for me. Ooh. Okay, this is actually not nearly as tough as I thought it would be. So the only thing I'm worried about is that the missiles may actually connect at this point. So shield up for 1, bash through the enemy walk towards these two to try and mess them up. So this unit's going to target the Sleipnir. And it's an autocannon, so it's not really something I need to put that much thought into. So I wonder if I can just run around the edge. I can. But unfortunately, the target I want to hit goes behind a mountain. Well, it goes behind a mountain, but his buddy is in line of sight. Oh, that's what I get for switching rifles. That's fine. This is still an acceptable shot. Okay, now hopefully I can make this marksman rifle sing. I wonder if I can actually get up on that. So I'm a little worried about the possibility that I'm going to be hitting the shield there, but I don't hate it. And what I want to see here is if there's an opportunity for a second shot. So this guy's not in a bad position at all. The only thing that worries me a little bit is if there's a retaliation, I'm going to be running really hot and I'm stuck on a small surface. Oh, and looks like I misjudged with the Sleipnir. Okay, there's no way that I can go to the right. So. Ugh! My dude's just too fast. Okay, so the Sleipnir's turn definitely was not as exciting as the original one that I had planned, but we'll see. The big playmaker, oddly enough, is the Lance with his shield, though, so... I guess this might be a fun one to do. Track along the side. There's too many trees in the way, though. Wow! We're watching that on replay. As a son, we were just talking about you. I am very happy to see you. I'm also very happy to see that Olaf has continued the gift sub. And that you're taking advantage of it. You also should be... Excuse me. Okay, so we did get hit by the missile. You should also be tagged up for the artist emote or artist badge if you so choose, Eyes of Sin. I believe you need to opt in for that, but I did finally get around to crediting you for your hard work. And for those of you who do not know the Eyes of Sin, they are this is the person I was talking about when I was talking about those emotes that I like. And I do know that the Eyes of Sin works better when you have a clear request that can be fulfilled as opposed to just use your best judgment. And I'm really bad for giving that sort of stuff. So bonus points for making such very good emotes with such terrible prompts. But yeah. Well, I mean, that's for your benefit. Certainly, I'm not going to take it personally. But yes, for those of you who are looking for emote, I know there's actually a few people who do emotes, so I always feel bad picking one over the other. If you do emotes and you'd like your services to be touted, definitely let me know, and I will give equal time. But the Eyes of Sin is the one who did my emotes. Now they do have a Twitch channel. Which is not regularly... Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. But on the other hand, I don't know if that's like a big thing to make a big deal out of. Yeah, the Eyes of Sin does have a Twitch channel, which does occasionally get a broadcast. They're a moderator on many other channels. But they also have a Twitter account. They've got a Coffee, and I do apologize, Isis, and I'm usually a little bit better at having these things up, but I am just completely exhausted, and I'm getting near the end actually. So if you'd like to link your Coffee and your Twitter and such, please do not be shy about it. But I'm trying my best to be on some kind of level of focus. But in any case, I've definitely been very fond of the Eyes of Sin's work. You also get a chance to see these, so particularly for Octavian, I do not have animated emotes, but I think Eyes of Sin's actually done a really lovely job with the frog prompt. But yeah, Eyes of Sin is somebody who, whether you are looking for emotes or whether you are just looking to support someone who makes a living doing their art, or alternatively, just want to check out their art, you can find them on Twitter, you can find them on Coffee. In fact, there is still a Tumblr, although I don't think the Tumblr gets the latest stuff on it. And please don't take... actually, you know what? I might be able to get the Coffee up. I've already taken the time on the shadow, so let's see if I can get... Oh, hey, the Twitter's there as well. Okay, cool. So... there are some other places that you can find Eyes of Sin's work. And the Coffee has the more recent material. In fact, it looks like there's a self-portrait, which I didn't see before, including a couple of other really lovely items, which I did get a chance to see before. I wasn't aware that you did that. What are your rates for the? But in any case, Eyes of Sin is, first of all, I'm actually very happy to see them here because they have every right to be very cross with me. But they're also somebody who I just feel very happy whenever I see them in chat. So. Well, way to get my hopes up. Is it my hopes up? Maybe something else. Anyways, I'm going to focus on this very good video game. Actually, no, I'm going to focus on this very good replay. Take that, wall. Walks away like nothing unusual about that move. Okay, there are actually some things I want to see how they turned out, so basically the shield strategy worked out at the start. It does seem, though, that it wasn't quite enough to avoid my fate with this heavy fellow, and it did actually seem to have a pretty significant impact. However, I'm pretty sure it's actually the Sleipnir's gun that wound up doing some pretty fearsome damage. Yeah, I mean, it's a little difficult to distinguish between the two, but I think the Sleipnir really delivered, and this machine gun really does not seem to have done anything at all. Yeah, it looks like it just went straight into the ground. That's embarrassing. Okay, well, we'll do the best with what we've got. So I suppose the first question is, does anybody actually want to target the bull? And the answer is no, so they basically get their pick of target. So we'll just walk into position. So this thing's got an assault rifle, this thing's got an autocannon. I think the autocannon does a bit more damage. 25. Okay, actually both of them are quite weak. Fair enough. I'd rather not overheat about this. So I'll defend myself for the assault rifle that's coming up. Now I don't need to worry too much about the rockets that are coming towards me because it's going to be as damaging to them as it is to me at this point. So this is kind of nice. They're putting up their shield to deal with the Sleipnir, which means I get free reign on their right-hand side, which is their rocket. Okay. Nobody seems to be bugging the marksman, which is great. All right, so the last piece of the puzzle is how do we avoid the damage on the Sleipnir. So the hill's going to be part of that strategy. And again, that shield's facing my Sleipnir. So again, the key to this is to make sure that the weapon side is facing the shotgun that's going to do all the damage to it. This is a less inspiring attack because it's targeting their shield side. However, it is protecting me through the hill. And yeah, I mean, this guy doesn't have anywhere to go, so let's watch the magic. You missed. I'm mad at you. Oh, this guy's toast. His rocket's still dangerous, though, and looks like the hill is not protecting my Sleipnir, so there's going to be a fair bit of damage there. It's a really good song. Yeah. I'm gonna replay this a couple different angles because there's a lot that happened there. So let's maybe just watch the tale of the different members of the brigade. So target number 1. Tanks the next target. So that was sufficient to crash it, but we're going to need to take it out later. Now, Mr. Machine Gun, after the first disappointing run, moved away from the hill and is now living his best life. I feel like the zoom is... I always felt like I could get in a little bit closer. Anyway, did the trick here. Nope. Couldn't get it behind that tower fast enough. Or I guess I could have, because he's just holding up his shield, but... And I can't zoom in any closer, it seems. But yeah, not a bad turn for us. So one of the heavies is down. This unit is still active. It's got an attack. It's actually going to be going after the marksman, so it might be a time for me to consider... I should probably focus on it. And I'll do that as early as possible. So this thing's actually pretty much intact, so I am in some risk if I don't actually deliver the kill. But what I'm going to focus on here is using the marksman rifle to deal with the real public enemy. I will, but it's actually a little more... yeah, one for him, one for the... It's the same as last turn, really. Okay, well... It's the hand I've been dealt. so I'll bring the Sleipnir in on it. Looks like this guy's wised up, so I could throw up my shield. But if I can just avoid the damage altogether, so much the better, right? Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. So we'll walk it. So he's firing his weapon. So the missile's launched. And then a few seconds later, this item... Tiberiosity, how you doing? You were doing MechWarrior 5 when I last stopped in. Although I think you also said you were playing MechWarrior 5 the last time you were here. Were you doing that tonight? Or am I only slightly more behind the times than I usually am? Anyways, for those of you who do not know Tiberiosity, so far as I can tell, Tiberiosity and their ilk do not have emotes to sell you. Oh, Borderlands, I've still not finished Borderlands 2, but I've been playing that not too long ago because Miss Ariella was doing that. But Tiberiosity, I believe you're a Canadian streamer as well. But I do know Tiberiosity more from the love-hate relationship with Halo Infinite specifically, but has done MechWarrior. I feel like you're doing a survival crafting game, but now I'm wondering if that was it as D-Pain. You want to like Halo, but they killed it. You do that too. Okay, good. I'm sorry. It's all running together. I feel like I'm almost doing your shoutouts under protest, just because Terraria. Okay, yeah, I like because Terraria is like one of the ones I actually play. But I've had more than a few people who are like, oh yeah, you're the, and you're the XYZ streamer, and like XYZ is something that I've not played in years, and it's obvious that they're sort of trying to take credit for something that they haven't really done, which is, again, fine. Like I've said before, I don't take attendance, and like I'm someone who can't always be in and be active inside of a chat. I try to be supportive where I can, but because I've been on the receiving end of that, I always try to take it to the level that I feel like I'm on solid ground in terms of what I'm talking about, and then just come up and be honest when I'm like, wait a minute, I might be confusing you with someone else. But I'm glad that I didn't completely mistake you for another person, because you certainly deserve better than that. But in any case, Tiberiosity, when I'm streaming at my normal hours, we tend to have quite a bit of overlap in terms of the time that we're playing. Now, as far as I'm concerned, your time's probably better spent anywhere else, but I leave it to your judgment. I shouldn't be second guessing your own choices. But Tiberiosity is somebody who's certainly been quite steadfast to the channel, and actually been very good at sort of spreading the host love. So the fact that I know Tiberiosity actually has quite a few different options in terms of their host, the fact that I've gotten a chance to see you a little bit more actually means a lot. So thank you for that. And I'm actually kind of hoping to catch you play MechWarrior 5 again, because the one thing I wanted to do right after watching you play MechWarrior, or was it a VOD? I'm pretty sure I saw you do MechWarrior live. But I actually really wanted to play it after. So, and I have it, so. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna Sir Robin this. So instead of trying to get clever, we'll let the... Okay, so they launch the missile. I'll run it out a little bit, then I'll dash to the hill. Now I don't expect this thing to like run into the I don't exactly expect it to run into the hill. Ugh. But as long as I can get like close to something for it to bang into, I'm happy. So two things we want to see, whether or not we can take this thing down before it fires its missile, and whether we can take this thing out before it fires after the marksman. I think it's pretty clear that we're not going to take out the launcher. Okay, good. It still looks like it's on target. So I'll try and sneak around the edge of this. Oh, no. We might have given it the slip. You can see this is a brave man's run. Okay, looks like they still hate the machine gunner. Now the big question is, can my marksman actually do anything at this range? The answer is no. So, but I don't think the dash is gonna quite. Yeah, we just need just a second to... Oh, I hate it when I'm... So one of the drawbacks in this game, when you're on a taller surface, it's actually hard to find something of an appropriate distance to measure out the delay. So this should do the trick, though. So I either want to pull back... actually, there might be something interesting here. Because that still gives me access to the baddie. Again, it's hitting the shield side a little more than I'd like. What if I delayed it to where he's firing? Yeah, so we hit him with one of those, and it's much more likely to hit the side that's firing the weapon. Okay, so now we do the same thing with the Sleipnir. The one thing I kind of want to do here is I do actually want to deal with this tank. It's still fresh, so I'm actually just going to walk the shotgunner over. I don't know if there's a big advantage. Now, honestly, heat's so cheap on this thing that I could actually probably fire a few rounds. I'm not in the best spot for the start of that turn, but it's just kind of fun to do, to be honest. Okay, so I should probably think a little bit about how I'm handling the machine gunner. I think what we'll do here is we'll wait out So again, missile fires. Just do the exact same thing all over again. Right arms down. So I did actually get bonked by the... I did get bonked by the heavy launcher there. Okay, I'm going to do something counterintuitive. I'm actually going to put the shield up and back off. So the reason for this is that they're opening... actually, you know what? It's better for me to... I'm closer to the short edge of their range, so it's actually better for me to charge. I'm not crazy about the fact that I'm sort of maintaining distance, but it's the best I've got under the circumstances. I'm shocked if we don't take this thing out, but got everybody trained on it just in case. Yeah, that's all barriers, so that'll be replaced. Okay, that was a fun little one to finish off on, especially because you got to see the destructible terrain with the questionable heavy launcher. So the rare shield may be a welcome addition. Okay, can't take it all. I do want the burst assault rifle. So the Asgard parts they're a really tough one for me because I am generally lacking some heavy stuff. This tower shield I'm not going to use, so we can scrap that. So if I just outright get rid of them, we're down to 70. Oh, actually, that's good. So essentially... yeah, so one of those, and I can get 5 in return. I don't think there's a 5 for me to get. I think I'll just leave. I think I'll leave the 5 on the table because I don't want to scrap anything unnecessarily. Yeah, we'll live with that. Yeah, no worries, Vanguard Master. I'm actually wrapping up for this, and you as well, Immortal Velity. So to those of you who came from Tiberiosity's stream, I'm sorry to be just showing you the tail end of Brace Yourself's wonderful Phantom Brigade, but I got a late start tonight, and I'm actually really, really tired. But I was pretty determined to liberate the province, even if it took me longer. So we'll do a bit of a debrief, and I will definitely find somebody to host tonight. But for those of you who are here for Phantom Brigade, we're probably going to do this until Industries of Titan gets a patch. Now, I'm not like committing myself to that forever. If I feel like some Industries of Titan, I'll definitely play it. But I know the experimental branch should have some of the new rival mechanics before too long. So I should probably check it out. In any case, province liberated. Thanks to your efforts, the enemy was driven out of the contested province. Resistant forces will hold it from here on out. And yeah, we'll for as long as I can for the foreseeable, I'll say Phantom Brigade for Wednesdays. Friday is the one that's a little bit more flexible. And then, of course, Monday we've been enjoying Old World, although certainly the difficulty has ramped up considerably. Now, it looks like there's a cache for us to work with. Okay, well, that more or less decides Hosfred for us. There was a change made to this game, I think it was 2 patches ago, where basically instead of the map kind of consisting of like fixed difficulties, it's going to adapt based on your level. Now, one side effect of that for me seems to have been that I'm definitely finding the challenges, they're different at a minimum. Don't want to say that they're too easy, because inevitably when I say that it's too easy, then something comes in and clobbers me and I wind up looking like an idiot. But what I have noticed is that because there's a little bit of a better balance between my mechs and the enemy, I don't have these ones where it feels like the enemy mechs are near immortal and I have to be really, really clever in terms of my flanks and my friendly fire to... In fact, particularly friendly fire, because essentially that means that you're fighting the enemy with weaker weapons and you need to direct their weapons against them to be able to, to deliver your win. So there were some virtues to the old system, although I think the current one works a little bit better, because I can definitely remember some points where I would say, well, there's no point in going to this province because it's just too low level. Like, there's no reason for me to go there. Whereas here, Laga, Hosfred, or Vremel are all equally viable choices. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I try to avoid statements like too easy, because I feel like it's expressing a feeling that can be put better. And like too easy, basically because too easy doesn't have quite the same information transfer as some of the other things that you could say. So, like, again, if I can say, well, one thing that was kind of nice about trying to take on challenges that were well beyond my capacity was that I would be forced to be more clever and use the enemy's weapons against them. So that also reveals a couple of other interesting things. So, like, let's say you said that you considered people going too far ahead to be a negative thing. One alternative that you have is that once people seem to be exhibiting this behavior, you can actually start equipping the higher difficulty sections with more missiles, because missiles don't lend themselves to friendly fire in quite the same way that, say, the beam weapons do. Beam weapons are amazing because you just throw up a really strong shield and you have like a guy with 4 people behind them screaming, "Stop, stop, for the love of God," as the thing kind of just bounces back and melts them all. There's like tons of fun that you can have with that. But overall, like I feel like the change that they've made in this is largely a positive one, because again, it gives me a reason to go to the particular regions that I am. I am kind of curious how much more attention the overworld's going to be getting, because I know they have been focusing on pilots a lot. But there's a side of me that... So I guess the biggest thing I would say right now is that unless the game said, and there is this line here, there was something about having to get all the surrounding districts. Where was it? Yeah, infiltrating the city for such a mission would not be possible until every surrounding province is liberated. So I don't know if this is referring to quite literally all the provinces or just the ones that are touching. In which case, I don't think I'm ever going to wind up in Biliskar. But that's another question entirely. But I guess I'd say I'm not 100% sure what motivates me to go to all of the provinces yet. I think there was some talk of like a rival system. So I'm wondering if it's almost going to be something like, Far Cry or Ghost Recon Wildlands, to, like, you get all of the bosses on the way up to like the primary villain. Like that might be a way that they're going to handle it. But yeah, with that in mind, like I am a little curious in terms of what the roadmap looks like relative to how much more attention the overworld gets, because I don't mind it the way that it is, but I will confess that I'm just kind of picking provinces because I want to engage in more fights, as opposed to feeling like I'm achieving a particular strategic advantage by going to province A over province B. And now because the difficulty is assigned based on adjacency, so I would expect Vremel should be 6 and then Malmland should be 7. And then I'm guessing whichever one, well, I guess we can say the capital district, that's probably going to be 8. Yeah. Steiget would probably be 8. Stienfinet 9. Yeah. Although I don't know why that goes up to 11. Or why Bilisker is low. I guess it kind of makes sense that Hollis would be... Well, no. It doesn't really make sense. Huh. So I don't see why these two would be a 12. These two would be an 11, and yet this one turns into a 14. But yeah, anyways, you can kind of see, like, I have a couple of small small thoughts about how the overworld works, just in terms of sort of what motivates my decisions. But I also have a feeling a lot of that's going to be driven by sort of the overall story of the game and this liberation. And again, I suspect there's going to be something about the pilots and who they have rivalries with. To drive a lot of that. So as far as the mech combat game is concerned, the mech combat they've got that down, and that's really fun. So coming up with a reason to stitch this all together, we already know there's really good writers at Brace Yourself, and there's certainly very good designers. So I have a feeling that they'll iron that all out. And if it doesn't get worked out, it's fine. I'll make up my own reasons. Anyways, like I said, I gotta wrap it up. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm gonna try and find somebody to host for the end of tonight, but it's past midnight and I need to get a lot done before I go to bed. So much so that I may not actually... I'm either not going to be able to sleep enough, or I'm not going to be able to get it all done well. But as I said before, if you are just here for Phantom Brigade, I will probably be back with more of that for Wednesday. Wednesday is definitely a dedicated Brace Yourself day, so that can mean everything from... Oh, sorry, having a little trouble bringing up Twitch. That can mean everything from... that can mean everything from Industries of Titan to Phantom Brigade in terms of the early access stuff. But, you know, I'm not above trying Crypta the Necrodancer on stream at some point. It's just, I think a lot of people have done this before. Oh, no problem, Tikri. And do you have, so for your, like, do you have a website for, like, your emote stuff? I'm assuming people know where to find you. But if you want me to, I wasn't sure if you wanted me to shout that out too much, but fair enough. You'd turn on a stream with Crypta the Necrodancer just for the music. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't get to hear the music too much, just because I'd be resetting it so much, but either way. Let me just take a quick look. But yeah, so for Wednesdays, it's kind of a dedicated brace yourself day. Just taking a quick second here to see nobody's doing Industries Titan right now, so I think I've actually been bugging this guy on their channel the last couple of days, so I feel like it's only fair that I show them a little bit of love as far as the host is concerned. Ah, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I shout out the Eyes of Sin, and certainly the Eyes of Sin has done my emotes. I'm very happy with them, but, you know, we shout out Vanguard Masters' Kickstarter and his GoFundMe. I like where I can. It's nice to be able to connect people with material that they're interested in. Anyways, so I don't have anybody doing Brace Yourself stuff tonight. On Friday, I will probably be back to Out There, but if I feel in a quaky mood, we'll finish that off. I'll do the 4th episode. I think the 4th episode's a little bit longer than the other ones. Yeah, no worries, Vanguard Master. I actually thought you'd gone to bed, but I know you just wrote it. You know that you're glad you could catch the episode, but for some reason I thought that you'd like just. That was it. That was your goodbye. So, but yeah, no. Like I said, I want where I can. I like to. It doesn't have to be just like you've done something that I'm head over heels for. I do like the idea of people being able to connect with things, because the thing is, my tastes tend to be kind of all over the place, and it's really not my job to sort of prejudge what other people are interested in the first place. And so that, and the fact that it's sometimes just nice to be a generous person, definitely makes me want to make sure that I don't know, I know the creative people in chat, and I know where to point people to them. Yeah, fair. I do like 8 endings. I'm like the Lord of the Rings. But yeah, so Friday probably Out There. I will do Quake if I feel like Quake, but I feel more likely I'm going to do Out There. Monday we're going to be back to Old World, although I have no idea how I'm going to handle the 3rd Carthage episode. But for wrapping up the stream tonight, we've got the Wolf Arok, who is an Australian streamer. He's been doing, he calls it the Xbox Console Challenge, so I think the idea here is that he's playing every Xbox game. He's got 36 out of 935, so he's got quite a few games ahead of him. But he's playing Grand Theft Auto 3, which I have only ever played on iPad. But apparently there is a console version of this game, and he's playing that. And he likes calling his fire truck Big Red, but I call Vladimir Lenin or Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov Big Red. And when there's certain people who like to get really angry about communist references in chat, I'm sure to reference it even more. But anyways, I'm gonna raid the Wolf Arok tonight. It looks like he's just getting started, and he's a pretty friendly guy. I know he's every once in a while he's wound up doing a co-cast with one of his friends, and they wind up being a pretty good couple. Although the biggest thing for me is just I've been really trolly in his chat lately, so I feel like it's a nice thing to do to toss some views his way. Anyways, thank you everybody for hanging out for Fan Brigade with me, particularly when I'm very babbly and late for tonight. I actually particularly appreciate all of you still showing up on evenings when I haven't been consistent with my schedules. I am going to try and get better and better at that. At the end of this month, I have got a whole bunch of changes happening just kind of work-wise. So I don't know if that's going to mean more or less sleep for me, to be completely honest, but I'm trying to make sure that I keep on top of everything that I'm doing so that when I sort of have my big turnover in terms of the work that I'm doing, I can manage it well, and that I make sure that everything else in terms of my life is sort of in order. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah, no, that's fair. But I don't know. I like to try and be consistent. It's the same way you try and show up for work on time, or you try and make sure that you get stuff done when you say you're going to do it. It's good to just try and show up for the stream when I say I'm going to be there. Anyways, please enjoy the Wolf Airlock. Have a great night, and we'll see you Friday.